That's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast tonight. NFL Week 17 predictions. Kyler going to go through each and every game, starting with Saturday games. We kind of touched on the Christmas games last week, but we're going to talk about the remaining Saturday, Sunday, and Monday games for you guys. We're going to touch, of course, on the playoff implications, talk about who needs to do what, who's already out of it, what the situations are, and of course, we're going to end it off with the Chives with Kyle. Oh, let's get it. America is football.
America is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass for the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my God.
No.
You loved it.
It's 30 to 27.
No.
Chiefs win. Chiefs
No.
win 30 to 20.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. Week 17 edition, which means we got 2 more weeks of football. Some teams, 1 more week of football.
Boom.
Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Texans. Until the playoff picture is secure. There is, even for the teams that aren't a playoff team, there are things to play for, and we're going to get into those as we go. But this is it. I mean, you start the NFL season, Rick, and it's, I mean, I think it's safe to say, unless you're the Chiefs or the Bills, it's especially this year, probably just the Chiefs. But it's everyone's goal to be playing meaningful football when you have 2 weeks left. And I only say the Chiefs because it's like expected at this point. But for Buffalo, you know, with losing Stephon Diggs, I think the season they've had is kind of surprising for a lot of people. So I'm not going to just throw them in the Chiefs category because a lot of people predicted a down season and that didn't really happen. But here we are. And when you really take just a step back, as much as we feel like we got a good idea of what we're looking at, not much has really been decided. The AFC North hasn't been decided. There's not a division winner. The seeding for the wild card, 5, 6, and 7 seeds, could change dramatically in the next 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about that. You have the Chiefs who have clinched the AFC West. You got the Texans who have clinched the AFC South, and aside from that, everything's, and then the Bills clinch, you know, the AFC East. But besides that, everything else is subject to change. We're going to get into it. Of course, there's a couple teams that they get a win and they're in. And it's simple as that. And that means we're going to be having playoff football week 17. Make no mistake about it. I will always stand on this hill and die. There's no difference between a team that needs to win a game to get in the playoffs and a team that has to win out to get in the playoffs playing each other week 17 and an actual playoff game. It's the same thing to me. And it's the same thing to the fans and the players. So we do have playoff football this week, as far as I'm concerned. And that is what makes it. And now, of course, like when the playoffs for real start, like that's a little bit different because it's actually the playoffs. But like the fact of the matter is everybody just wants a ticket to the dance. So you're getting playoff desperation football. And that in itself feels like a playoff game, right?
Oh yeah, the environment is crazy. Tensions are high. People are on the edge of their seats. So pretty much the opposite of every Bears game is what this is right now, these last few weeks going into the playoffs. It's the opposite of that, especially if you're a Bears fan. But I agree, man. Like week 17, week 18, and honestly, you can even put like 15, 16, week 15, week 16 in there because a lot of things have to go right. You know, last 4 games, you see the wild card graphic, you see the in the hunt graphic, you see the if this team wins, this and this have to happen in order for them to swoop it. It's mayhem the last 4 weeks of the season, and as a fan, it's always super exciting.
Yeah, and you know we're going to be predicting all of the games that happened or that are happening. I really quickly wanted to just brush over what we did see on Christmas. So the reason I bring it up is because what stands out to me about this weekend, as far as prediction goes, I nailed it. I know that we didn't talk about it, and I know that that you know everybody was busy, but my uncle. It was the first game, Chiefs Steelers, and the Chiefs scored, and he was like, shit. And I was like, don't tell me. You bet on the Steelers? And he was like, I took the points with the Steelers. And I'm like, I know that I told you to take, you know, if they're an underdog on the road. I know I said all of that, but except Christmas games, except primetime football, like, and here's the real issue, and this is what I'm excited. This is why I wanted to talk about this. To me, the Steelers have never been that team. Now, I know that everybody else has been totally fooled, rightfully so. Russell Wilson had a couple of games with like 3 touchdown passes and 300 yards, and everybody was like, Sean Payton sucks. And I'm sitting here watching this the whole time, and I'm like, I'm not going to react to it. We got, as far as I'm concerned, would I do any trade backs? No.
No.
We got the future. The Steelers know they're not winning a Super Bowl. What's the point of having a bridge quarterback that you know that you won't win a Super Bowl with? And that conversation turned into Steelers fans saying, hey, we do think we can win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. And to that, I say there was never a chance for this team to win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. And this is, I hate to say it because it's going to come across as like I wanted them to fail. I have no animosity about any of this. I'm just talking ball right now. Yeah. The Pittsburgh Steelers, you know, they beat the Commanders by 1 point. The week before that, they win by 8 points against the Giants. But since those games, all right, they've lost. They did beat the Ravens. That was their biggest win of the year, right? 16-18. But really, Justin Tucker just kept missing field goals in that one. Yeah. A win's a win. Yep. Moving on, though, they lose to the Browns on Thursday Night Football. That was the Blizzard game. I think it's the only one we've really had this year. Then I think so. The next week, they're able to beat the Bengals in what was, I think, Russ's most impressive game this whole season. It was because the Bengals scored 38, but the Steelers were able to put 44. Like at that point, that is the peak of the Steelers where everyone's like, no, we can win the Super Bowl. Okay. Then they beat the Browns in the rematch the next week. Now, here's where I'm concerned because this is to me a moment where it's like, all right, you beat the Bengals with no defense. And then you split the series with the Browns with, you know, the Browns, they're not a good team this year. But this is when the rubber was going to meet the road all along. Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals with everything on the line. And they have lost all of them. They are going to have one game left. Now, we'll talk about the Bengals-Broncos later. But if the Bengals win that game, they're playing for everything against the Steelers next week. This is a team that potentially goes into the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak. Just 4 weeks ago, they were like clearly going to win the division, of course, with like a 3-game lead over the Ravens. And now it's like the Ravens are the favorite to win this division. The Steelers are starting to remind people of the 2020 Steelers that started 12-0 and then dropped like 5 of their last 6 and then just got
Limped
eliminated.
into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this is why it matters. You don't want to go into the playoffs with no momentum. And the Steelers, I feel like we can't just look at this.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this is the most brutal schedule in the NFL, and it's catching up to them. They did a great job managing it until about 4 weeks ago. It is to the point now where it's like you just can't keep winning these close games against these teams. These teams are better. The Ravens, the Eagles, the Chiefs, they're all better than you, and it's proving to be true. What do you make of the Steelers, the season that they had before this kind of losing stretch, and realistic expectations like moving forward? Because they are going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree at all with anything that you've said so far, because the Steelers somehow, I'm looking at their schedule from last year, and it is very sporadic in terms of the last few weeks of the season where, for example, they lose to the Eagles 27-13. They lose to the Ravens 34-17. They lose to the Chiefs 29-10. Or wait, no, this is this year. I'm looking at the 24. I put in 23. Why doesn't it give me the 23 schedule? Hold on. I'm looking at the final, because a lot of this is true, right? Somehow towards the end of the season and even into the playoffs, it's like they don't really look like a team that deserves to be in the playoffs, but somehow they're getting in. And really, this is all credit to Tomlin and the coaching. And I think this isn't something that no one is aware of. It's Tomlin's coaching. It's the staff. It's the culture. It's all that's built into it, right? Going into this, they let go of Deontay Johnson, who has been nothing but a menace, really, to a lot of the teams he's been on. Pretty absent for the most part in Carolina. Who kicked him off? The Ravens kicked him off the team. The Texans are picking him up because Stephon Diggs is out and Tank Dell is out as well. So they're trying to bring somebody in, right? The Warren, the Najee Harris thing, they had some good seasons last year, but I mean, Jaylen Warren didn't score a touchdown until week 12 or something like that. So a lot of this roster is potentially good or has shown flashes of goodness. And we talk about the quarterback room with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. It's just the offensive side of the ball is not a finished or a polished product at all. It's still in the building stages. And even George Pickens, for all of his athletic gifts that he has, temperament-wise is just not there. So while Tomlin is a great coach and he can coach this team into the playoffs, into a above 500 or better record season in, season out, every time it's the playoffs, you mentioned it, 11-0, they just falter. It is just not, a team is not worried about them going into week 1 of the division the wild card matchups. This season specifically, our quarterbacks from last year are going to this team. And Justin Fields started off really well, 3-1, 4-1, whatever it was. Then they made the switch to Russ, and it looked really good. But we knew that the opponents, the teams they were going up against, they weren't premier teams. We talked about the Ravens. It was really Justin Tucker losing that game for them. So we know that it wasn't a premier start to the season. It was more like, we got to stack these wins because the back end of our schedule looks rough, and that's exactly what's going on. You just saw them lose to the Chiefs by double digits. They're going up against the Bengals, who, like you mentioned earlier, they've got a chance to make it if they can win this week and then win next week against the Steelers. Like, they've got a shot. So they're going to be playing hungry, and the Steelers are like, well, we're in, and we just don't have the talent on our side of the ball to stop a team like the Bengals. Again, it's all coaching, but the roster needs almost like a full turnover in a sense on the offensive side of the ball. You got to decide on a quarterback. Is Justin Fields going to be your guy? Probably not. You're nowhere near in a draft position to make a solid pickup at quarterback unless you trade down or up, whatever it is. And your running backs, they have shown you not much. Najee Harris was good a year, just hasn't been there ever since. George Pickens, I don't know what side of George Pickens you're going to get, whether you're going to get the uber talented side without the temperament issues, or if you're going to get a mix of both. It just needs a full hull in terms of the what do you call it? The talent positions, the wide receivers, the running backs, the quarterbacks. Your three main positions on that team need a full turnover. But no, man, you're right. There's no faith of the Steelers going into this postseason with any. And I talked to Liam about this yesterday during the Bears Seahawks stream. I don't think they're going to go very far, and I don't think any team or any fan in the NFL, whether you're a Steelers fan or not, thinks that they're going to go to the Super Bowl. It's a gift and a curse that Tomlin is able to have this team go 500 or better every season. Gift because you never endure losing seasons. Curse because you're never in a good position to draft a difference maker, or at least it seems that way for the Steelers. But again, to your point, they have been outmatched for the last 3-4 games. And because of their early season success, they are in the playoffs, but don't expect them to really make much noise and make much of a dent in any of these NFL playoff teams.
Yeah, and it might be a good thing, them dropping from the 3 seed to the 5 seed, which they're currently now in, because who would you rather play? Would you rather go to Houston and play a depleted Houston team, or would you rather play the Chargers?
Exactly. I mean, at that point, I'm taking Houston, which, by the way, Houston, they're a rough playoff team. Them and Pittsburgh, neck and neck for worst playoff team from the AFC right now, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's crazy because if Chargers and Broncos win this week, then you're going to have all 3 teams are going to be 10-6.
Yeah.
And then next week, the Steelers play the Bengals. The Chargers are playing the Patriots this week. If the Patriots almost beat the Bills, if the Patriots can beat the Chargers and Denver can win a game, Denver could move up. But it's like if you move up to the 6th spot, you play Baltimore. If you stay at 7, you play the Bills. Those are 2 really tough games. So really, it's all about moving up to the 5 spot. And that's why, even though they only need 1 win to get in for Denver, you really want to win 2 so that you can move up to the 5 seed potentially and play the Texans.
Yeah.
Which 11 wins might be able to do that if the Chargers split one of their last 2 games, if they lose one of them, and the Steelers lose next week to the Bengals. But we'll get to that. And then the other game was the Ravens, and we don't have to talk about it. We kind of talked about it. The Texans, they're depleted right now, and the Ravens are really rolling. And one thing to keep in mind is the Ravens do have a formula. I'm just curious to know if they're going to stick with it when the playoffs start. So this is the Ravens this year. And I made sure to write this down because I think this is saying a lot. The Ravens have played 5 playoff teams this year. All right, this is Derrick Henry in every win versus AFC playoff teams. Texans, 27 carries, 165 yards, and a touchdown. The Steelers, 27 carries, 189 yards. The Chargers, 24 carries, 140 yards. Broncos, 23 carries, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bills, 24 carries, 209 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The formula for Baltimore, at least during the regular season, has been if we're playing a tough team, we're going to feed Derrick Henry the ball 25 plus times, and he's going to run for 150 yards and maybe get multiple touchdowns. But the way they abandoned the run game last year in the AFC Championship game, I don't see him doing it this year with Derrick Henry at running back.
No, not at all. And it's a good thing that they're kind of sticking to a formula because you see Derrick Henry get double-digit carries. And we have to look at a lot of these teams, right? Like the Texans, the Broncos, the Chargers, their defenses are awesome. And probably more so their passing defense. So this is probably somewhat of a strategy that John Harbaugh is doing, right? Like, hey, if we can't get past these guys in the air with Lamar Jackson, let's beat the shit out of them through the run with our big bulldozer Derrick Henry, right? And not to say that any of these teams don't have a good run defense. It's just when you get beat to shit by Derrick Henry, Lamar can beat you through the air. So, like you said, to your point, abandoning the run is not going to be an option for the Ravens moving forward in the playoffs. If anything, they're going to run a lot more than they have the last 2-3 seasons or last 2-3 playoff appearances that they've had. And that might be a formula for success because we've never seen the Ravens have a true 3-down back like they do Derrick Henry this year, especially when he's killing it in terms of stats and how he's punishing defenders with his run style. So this might be like it's already a new and improved Ravens team, but now a new and improved playoff Ravens team. That may be the formula, man.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of football like on Tuesday or Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday. Yeah. There's just been a ton of football. So we'll break it down this way. There's 3 games tomorrow. Mm-hmm. The Chargers and Patriots is the first one. It'll be at noon my time. Let's talk about it. So the Chargers going into Foxborough. Like I said, the Patriots playing a pretty solid game last week against the Bills, almost upset them. It's going to... I mean, look, everyone's going to pick the Chargers to win the game, but the way the Patriots are playing right now, specifically Drake May, I like what I'm seeing from Drake May. Like, I really, really like what I'm seeing. And I'm not surprised. The way I saw it going this year, which I've made clear, was that Jaden Daniels was the best quarterback in this draft class. Drake May was going to be like Josh Allen. Not right away, but that's his ceiling. And then Bo Nix could win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He won't now, but that was his ceiling when we did ceiling and floor.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, I mean, he's the first overall pick. Obviously, the Patrick Mahomes comparisons, like that's supposed to be a home run. And then you got the Penix. All of these quarterbacks, and now since Penix took over, people are starting to like Atlanta and to get into the playoffs and take that spot from the Bucs. So, like, dude, this quarterback class really might be one of the best of all time. But I think they're going to be the best of all time. But, like, can Drake May do enough with nothing to play for? The thing is historically a 3-12 team that's out of the playoffs with nothing to play for at home usually wins these games for some reason. I'm gonna go with the Patriots plus. I think the Patriots are 5 or 6.5 point dogs. I like them to cover the 6-point spread, but I think Harbaugh is just too good of a coach to lose this game. But I expect a tight one.
Yeah, let's see. Patriots are -4.
So, yeah, it's getting bet down because I think it opened at maybe 5.5. And people are going Patriots. Okay. People are betting the Patriots, and that number is starting to come down.
Yeah.
It'll probably start getting bet back up. If it goes down to 3.5, people are going to start taking the Chargers -3.5.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, man. Okay, so you're taking Patriots with the points, but straight up you're taking Chargers?
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I can't agree more about what you're seeing from Drake May because, again, he was probably, at least in terms of the top 3 quarterbacks taken, Daniels, Williams, and May, he was probably the one that needed the most work out of all of them. Obviously, Penix, Bo Nix, and J.J. McCarthy had their pluses and minuses, but out of the top 3, they were saying, hey, it's Drake May who probably isn't the most NFL ready and probably needs the most work, followed by Caleb Williams, followed by Jaden Daniels being the most NFL ready. But I love what I'm seeing from Drake May. Ever since they decided to start him, I mean, you kind of see the fight, right? You see the fight more happening in the Patriots. When they had Jacoby Brissett, it was more like, hey, Jacoby's going to guide this team, but you could see that there was something of a flip, of a switch being flipped when Drake May came in, because now it's the rookie, right? He's playing with like house money at this point. Like, hey, we can't get any worse, but we can get a little bit better. Let's see where we can go with this offense truly. And that's what he's doing, man. He's trying to play better than the rest of the rookie quarterbacks, right? Like he is trying to play at that similar level, if not better. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Patriots too. They are a few pieces away, I would say, from putting up a pretty damn good offense. Linemen, some wide receivers, those type of guys. And the way he talks about Gerard Mayo, and he's like, I'm sick of hearing it. Us players also got to do this, got to do that. So you like what you see from this guy in terms of mentality and really what he's put on the field. I just cannot see him beat that Chargers defense, right? Justin Herbert, all these guys on the defensive side of the ball who've been playing outstanding. Jim Harbaugh. I mean, Jim Harbaugh versus Gerard Mayo. Obviously, you're taking Jim Harbaugh. And just skill positions on each of the team. I think you got to take the Chargers in this one, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't know how much home field advantage is going to matter, and I don't really see it mattering that much with a 3-12 team. They probably haven't played very well at home either, but Chargers know what kind of is at stake here in terms of seeding, possibly too. They're already in the playoffs. I see them winning this game, but I think they're gonna win by more than the 4 points they're giving the Patriots right now. I really do think they're going to win by more than 4. So I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah, and Colin Cowherd had that same bet as well. Derwin James, he's been flying around. But yeah, this could be a career-defining win for Drake May to close out this season because he never – he didn't get the start week 1. He didn't really get thrown into a bad situation in the middle of the year. Mm-hmm. He's done what he can, but if he is improving every single week and he can win a game like this at home, that could really set the tone for the Patriots moving forward. So
absolutely.
I think it's a big game for the franchise, even though they're not really playing for anything.
Yeah.
All right, next up.
Here we go.
We got the Denver Broncos. we got the Denver Broncos going into Paycor Stadium, taking on Joe Burrow in one of the best offenses in the NFL. T. Higgins is going to play. Jamar Chase is good to go. Joe Burrow, they've won 3 in a row. They're starting to roll. They know what they need. They need Denver to lose their last 2. This one, they control. And then next week, it's Broncos-Chiefs, and the Bengals have to beat the Steelers, and all of a sudden, the Bengals are looking like a playoff team. So this is monumental. You talk about a Broncos team that has, for 10 years, missed the playoffs. 10 years. There's 2 guys on this team that people probably don't realize have been on the team throughout almost all of this. Garrett Bowles and Cortland Sutton. Those 2 guys have every single year been like, this is our year. This is our year. Get your ass kicked and you shake it off and you get back into the locker room and you say all the right things in front of the camera, and it's got to get to your head eventually, right? They go up to you in the locker room after a game, and Garrett Bowles, man, I have videos saved of him just with tears in his eyes. Like, I'm fucking tired of losing, man. It's shitty. It sucks. You give it all you got and you lose every single week. And I'm just tired of telling you guys we're going to get better. We're going to be better because we're actually really trying. Like, it's not like it's a lack of effort. I don't know what to say to you. And as a fan, you see that and you're just like, I don't even, that's how I feel. Like, where's the answers? Like, what are we going to do? Are we just going to be losers forever? And it really does start to get to you. And then you draft Bo Nix and you have a chance to have an 11-win season his rookie year. And the opportunity that is sitting in front of the Denver Broncos right now is one that will just, I can't stress to you the magnitude of one more win this year for Garrett Bowles, for Cortland Sutton. They did a team vote, and the Broncos decided to practice on Christmas. They asked Cortland Sutton about that. he said, is it hard for your family to, let you go to practice on Christmas? I'm sure they want to spend time with you. And he goes, I'm blessed because my family, they know that I love Christmas, but I also love football. And they know that I've spent my entire career and I've never been to the playoffs. And they know what opportunity we have right now. Like, my mom knows that I'm a win away from the playoffs. She knows what that means to me. And I just hear him talking, and I just know how much it matters to the players. I know how much it would mean to Bo Nix and him being the guy moving forward. And of course, I know what it means as a fan. The Bengals are not an easy team. They are going to be rough. I mean, this type of a game in this magnitude at home, I would take the Bengals, it seems like, over any team in the NFL. It could be the Chiefs. It's just, this game is like all or nothing. You're going to have to beat the Bengals with the playoffs on the line. In this, we talked about like career defining wins, at least this year. There's no game more important. They always say the most important game's the next one. If Denver wins this one, that won't be true next week. The most important game will be this week of the entire season, and it's such it's such a moment that if it happens, Rick, if it actually happens and Denver clinches the playoffs, I'm going to be there for it because I'm going to this game.
Let's go, baby! Kyle will be there. Kyle told me there was a big announcement. This son of a bitch told me there was a big announcement, and that's what it is.
That is the big announcement. I'm leaving in the morning. It's a 4-hour drive to Paycor Stadium, and I'm gonna be on the visitor side, and I'm gonna be right behind Sean Payton and the players.
Hell yeah!
And last time the Broncos and Bengals played, I think Jamar Chase had 1 catch for 9 yards. I mean, the one thing that I don't think people realize is that Surtain is going to be, like, for Jerry Jeudy, we don't know why he wasn't on Jerry Jeudy. But whenever Denver plays teams with a top 7 to 10 wide receiver, a Mike Evans, a Devontae Adams, a T. Higgins, or a Jamar Chase, any of these guys, it's Surtain all day following him around the field. That's what we're going to get. Yeah. That's what we're going to get tomorrow. So am I worried about Jamar Chase? I mean, yeah, he's going to make a couple plays. That's what's going to happen. He's going to best Surtain a couple times. Now, is he going to have 200 yards and 2 touchdowns? No, not even close.
Nope.
So you got that. We got Riley Moss coming back. He's going to be on T. Higgins. Nick Bonito is going to be coming after it. Zach Allen coming after it. Now, the reason Denver said that they wanted to play against the Chargers was so they had extra rest going into this week. If they win this week, they're going to be resting their starters maybe next week along with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So that they have a kind of a bye week, so to speak. So this game, I mean, Denver doesn't want to have it all on the table next week against the Chiefs. They know that if they win this game, most likely they're not going to play another game for 2 weeks, and it's going to be a playoff game. So it's Zach Taylor and Sean Payton, and really, like, there's no reason for me to pick the Bengals here. There's not. I trust Sean Payton. I trust they got to stay on schedule. They can't abandon the running game like they did last week. Like, it feels like the sky is falling. This is still a team that's won 4 of their last 5. Like, this is still a team that even that one loss, they were up 21-10. And what happened, and we got picked apart. We didn't have Riley Moss. It wasn't our best game, but I expect Denver to bounce back. I expect the pass rush that's been an issue all season long for Joe Burrow with that offensive line. I expect this team leads the NFL in sacks. I expect them to be in the backfield. I expect sticky coverage. I expect interceptions and sacks, and I expect Bo Nix and the Broncos to win this game.
Let's go.
And punch their ticket to the playoffs for the first time in 10 years.
Kyle, if I told you the Bengals are 0-7 What do you think 0-7 means in this regard? What do you think the Bengals are 0-7 in?
I'm going to go teams with a winning record.
Teams that are currently in the playoffs, they are 0-7 against.
I love that.
And guess what? They're going 0-8, baby.
Yes!
The Broncos are going to win this game in Cincinnati. It's going to be a fucking hell of a game, man, because both of these teams want to win badly. And look, a lot of the talent on the Bengals side leans in their favor, right? Bo Nix, Joe Burrow, you're going Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, you're going Jamar Chase. But there is a fight in this Broncos team since, I don't know, week 4, week 5, something like that. And honestly, probably all season, where they were told they weren't going to win 5 games or that their max was 5 games. And they've exceeded those expectations by winning 10. They have more than doubled they're going to more than double their expected wins this week, tomorrow, on Saturday, December 28th, against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They're going to punch their ticket in because Sean Payton is going to come up with a game plan that is going to just surprise Joe Burrow, that is going to limit T. Higgins and Jamar Chase with Riley Moss and Pat Surtain. Benito is going to get to Joe Burrow because he's had one of the worst offensive lines probably his entire career. They're going to get to Joe Burrow, limit him, limit the passing, limit the offense, and the Broncos are going to punch their ticket tomorrow to get into the playoffs. The Bengals are going to go 0-8 this season against current playoff teams, and it's going to be even better with the fact that you're going to be there. But Broncos are winning this. I'm going to go 20-13. Broncos take the dub.
Wow, 2013. A lower scoring game than I was expecting.
Yeah, I think if I'm being honest, I think it's going to be a tough one in Cincinnati for Bo Nix and this offense. And we've talked about it. I mean, the Broncos really, in terms of like talent, right? Like Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix, those are your 1 and 2. The running game isn't amazing. You got 3 backs that aren't great, but if you kind of use them right, which Sean Payton for the most part this season has done so, you're going to get a lot of production out of these guys. I mean, you're going to get 80, 75 yards out of one of these guys and maybe like 50 to 60 from the other 2, something to that degree. But I think that's going to be enough. And especially, again, with the home field advantage that the Bengals have, I think it might get to the Broncos a little bit, Bo Nix and that team and that offense. But I think at the end of it, the defense is going to step up like mightily, and they're going to limit that Bengals offense to only 13 points, and they're going to get to Joe Burrow a lot tomorrow. That's what I think it is.
I want to see a lot of Audric Estime.
I was going to say, that's who you like the most. Who's been more productive too, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was averaging like 5.9 yards a carry, and then they just stopped giving him the ball. They got away from the running game. Mm-hmm. And Sean, he said right after, he's like, that's me. I can't say it enough. So, and then they even zoomed into his play sheet, and it said, run it, ! Do you remember that? Amazon zoomed. So he had his play call sheet, and they zoomed the camera in, and it said run it on top in black Sharpie with an exclamation mark.
Nice.
And he was like, first off, I don't like that the cameras are zooming in on our play sheets. And it's like, well, Sean, they're not. They're zooming in on you. And you're holding it. But anyway, he said, yeah, I like to make little notes like to myself. And I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting him to be this transparent. What does that tell you? It tells you that Sean has to remind himself to run the football. It does show you that there's a part of him that feels like he's down and out kind of quick, like where you have to we got to throw the ball. We can't run it. And he's like, no. I need to remind myself to take a deep breath and run the football. And I wasn't expecting him to be that honest about it. But yeah, if that's his little note to himself, I hope he writes it again, because the Bengals are giving up 128 rushing yards per game, 21st in the NFL. But here's the kicker. Their last game, they gave up 148 rushing yards. And at home this year, they average 133 rushing yards given up. You got to run the football because A, they're not good at stopping it, and B, you keep Joe Burrow and that offense on the sideline. There might be some weather. It's supposed to rain. Now they're saying the hard rain is going to come after the game. So maybe the weather won't be a factor, but it's just something to keep an eye on. Mm-hmm. That would definitely favor your lower scoring game that you have. But this is going to be the best game tomorrow by far.
100%. I cannot wait for that because they're going to get to Joe Burrow, man. I have zero doubts about the Denver defense getting to Joe Burrow. It's just at this point, like how often and how many sacks you guys going to get. And to limit T. Higgins and Jamar Chase is going to be huge. I don't really see an issue with Chase Brown on the Bengals side really kind of burning you guys in the run game, but they're going to keep him in check as well. Broncos are winning tomorrow. Brother.
Can't wait to make that post-game. If they win, I'm going live from the stadium.
Do it.
I'm logging into StreamYard.
Do it.
I don't know how I'm going to do it because I don't have like the login stuff for my phone, but I will find a way. I will go live on YouTube, just Twitter. I don't know. Just be ready for anything to happen.
Let's go.
Because I'm going to record immediately if we're in the playoffs and expect some emotion if it happens.
Hell yeah. Love it.
All right. This next game, honestly, like the Cardinals at Rams. Now, the Cardinals were eliminated last week from the playoffs with the Panthers beating. No, how did that happen? So
they got beat by the Panthers.
Oh, right. That's what it was. They got beat by the Panthers, and that eliminated them from the playoffs because they also, the Rams also beat the Jets. And that combination of things eliminated the Cardinals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I remember them on Red Zone bringing it up. They're like, this is huge because Rams are about to beat the Jets, which means if the Cardinals lose, they will be eliminated.
Oh, okay.
They ended up losing that game. Now, divisional rivals, it's always tough. The Rams is one of those home field advantages that can easily turn into kind of an away game. Not against the Cardinals, it really won't. The Cardinals are 1-5, both straight up and versus the spread over their last 6 divisional games. They had a 41-10 victory when these teams met in week 2. But at the same time, like a lot has changed since then. I believe they had no Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua at that point in the season. The Rams are 6.5-point favorites. I think I like the Rams to win by more than that. I think I like the Rams minus 6.5, but I'm taking the Rams easy.
Yeah, this is a very somber game for the Cardinals because even as you saw last week against the Panthers, Trey McBride was coming through the tunnel at the end of the game and he's like, that's a sorry ass team we just lost to. I'm sorry. Just some random camera that was there. I don't know if it was a phone or if it was like an actual camera, but you could tell that there was like legitimate, sincere disappointment in the way they lost to the Panthers. Now, they're obviously going to go into LA, try to play spoiler, try to still win the game, obviously, right? They're getting paid to play this game. They're going to do it to the best of their ability, and they're going to try to do their best to get the Rams out of it. But the Rams, knowing that the Seahawks already won, they want to win it as well because then it brings down a showdown in Week 18. I believe it's a Week 18 game now for the Seahawks and the Rams that whoever wins that game is going to win the division. So the Rams need to win this game. They know what's happened has happened, and they're going to win this game at home in front of their home crowd against the Cardinals. But you had mentioned something about Puka and Cooper being out the last time these teams met or earlier this season, whatever the case may be. They're basically at full strength. I mean, Stafford and Puka and Cooper Kupp and that offense again is just firing on all cylinders, similar to really kind of what it was last season, right? Rams did not look like they were into the season, into getting into the playoffs midway through the season, and then they finally had that like late season spurt. got to it, and it was because of that offense and what Puka Nacua had been doing all season, what Cooper Kupp has continued to do throughout his career, and the fact that they got rid of their kicker halfway through because they're like, we're not going to be able to do this. So a lot of those things that happened last year are very similar to what's going on this year, late into the season. They're going to be playing for that playoff spot. I'm taking the Rams at home, man. I don't think this is too difficult of a pick for me. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be that much better than the Rams that they're going to beat them. I'm taking the Rams by a touchdown minimum.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. To me, it's a no-brainer. Okay, so moving to Sunday's games, which there will be a lot less than usual because of Saturday and Christmas football. But we're going to start with the Indianapolis Colts at the New York Giants. The Colts technically are not eliminated from the playoffs. Now, what they would need is Denver to lose out, and then they kind of need, I think, Miami and the Bengals to win out with them, because that would mean that there would be a 3-way or a 4-way tie at 9 and 8, and then they could potentially get in. So whatever, they need a lot to happen, but they're still playing for something. The Giants are not. I mean, if anything, they're playing for the first round pick, which is to say that they're playing to lose. 7.5, getting 7.5 at home. I just don't know like what to make of this game. I don't trust either team. I don't trust Anthony Richardson. The Colts being eliminated from playoff contention with the loss, I'm going to pick the Colts.
Yeah, I'm taking the Colts too. The Giants, yeah, like you said, they're playing for the number 1 pick right now. I don't know if they're going to be playing to like try to keep Dable around. I don't know if Dable's going to stick around. It looks like he's kind of like on the hot seat, off the hot seat, on the hot seat, off the hot seat. Clearly, towards the end of this year, it's more on the hot seat now. And Bill was talking about yesterday about the banners that are flying across, the sky in New York, talking about Mara. That's enough. Fucking sell the team or do something different. I don't know what that difference may be. These owners aren't going to sell the team. It may be that Dable is going to be out, as well as the GM Shane. They're going to be out. So that may be the change that the Giants players are hoping to play for. That might be the only thing they play for. But it's not going to be a playoff spot. It may just be that. It may just be their head coach and their GM. The Colts are coming into it, like you said, still somewhat alive, still kind of hopes in the air to make the playoffs. I highly doubt they make the playoffs, but I do not doubt that they're going to beat the Giants, and I think they're going to beat them by 2 score. I'm taking them by 2 touchdowns, 14 points to win this game. I don't know if the Giants can stop Jonathan Taylor. I think they have a better shot at stopping Anthony Richardson and their receivers than they have at Jonathan Taylor. So I feel like this is going to be a big Jonathan Taylor game up against that Giants defense. And Anthony Richardson, he is playing, right? He's not hurt or anything.
No, he's playing, and the Giants are 31st against the run and 28th in yards per attempt against the run. So, like, I'm with you, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, huge game.
He is going to eat.
Yeah. So I don't see them again. Can they stop Anthony Richardson? Possibly, but it's not Jonathan Taylor. He's going to run all over him. 150 yards rushing for Jonathan Taylor. 2 touchdowns.
I'm going to say 165.
Oh, I like it.
And if you don't like it, sue me. All right.
Getting the paperwork ready.
This one, New York Jets at Buffalo. Buffalo 9.5-point favorites. I'm feeling like taking the Jets in the points. Aaron Rodgers, in just his last couple games, even his last 8, he's got 14 touchdowns to 1 interception. It's been a down year. He's still on pace to throw for over 4,000 yards. It seems like as of late, him and Devontae Adams have that old relationship coming back. Last week, they were playing the Rams, who had a lot to play for, but the Rams played a really good game, and the Jets were really in it till the end. What really hurt them was like the fourth down failed conversions. It seems like the Jets head coach like has no idea when to go for it and when to punt it. It does seem like they're missing a real coach, and they are. So it makes Buffalo the safest bet. I'm kind of confused on this one as far as spread, but I'm going Bills to win it. Not sure if the Jets will keep it within 10 points or not, though.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing that too. I definitely see the Bills winning by double-digit points in this one. And to me, I feel like saying that is going to be a 50-50 because of what you said with Aaron Rodgers and the way this offense has been playing recently, right? They've been playing pretty damn well. And again, that Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams connection is definitely in kind of full bloom, although very, very late in the season where it doesn't really make much of a difference anymore. But you got to still credit them, man. They're still playing at a very high level, at a level they've played at in Green Bay for so many years. But Buffalo is just the superior team, I think, in all aspects. I mean, are you taking Aaron Rodgers? Are you taking Josh Allen at this point of the season or even in their careers? I'm taking Josh Allen. Maybe Devontae Adams has the edge for all the other Buffalo wide receivers. You're telling me Josh Allen wouldn't want Devontae Adams right now instead of, I don't know, Khalil Shakur? Yeah, he probably would. He's not going to say it, but I think we can say that he would. And I think that is really the only edge that the Jets have in terms of offense. But yeah, I could definitely see a double-digit win by the Bills. It's a division rival, regardless of they already are the an AFC East winners or not. I think they're going to want to play these guys hard and rest their guys for next week because they still have got the number one. No, they don't have the number one seed. Never mind. Whether they have anything to play for or not, I still think they're going to play their division rival as tough as possible and rest their guys in the fourth quarter and then next week as well. So I'm going Bills to win this. Easy.
All right. Bills to win it easy. It would be interesting because the Bills, if they did lose this game, then the Chiefs would, I think, clinch. No, they clinched by winning.
Yeah, Chiefs already clinched. Yeah.
Yep, they clinched the home field throughout the playoffs. So, like, for Buffalo, like, honestly, like, what are they even playing for right now?
Maybe to keep the second seed.
So they don't end up the 3 seed?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And if that is the case, like whatever the situation may be, whoever Kansas City has to play, for example, if they have to play Houston because they win against the Steelers, and if Buffalo and Baltimore move on into the divisional round, Buffalo gets the home field advantage, right?
Right. I get that. But if they win this week, then they clinch too.
Yes.
So this for sure would be the last meaningful game of the year for the Bills. If 100%. They lose it, next week would have some meaning. But if they win it, it's all over. Yep. Now, moving forward, the Tennessee Titans at Jaguars. I
talk about meaningless.
So meaningless. I'm
gonna check.
I'm gonna take the Jaguars 26-21.
Jaguars 26-21?
Yeah, just they're at home. I don't trust anything about the Titans right now. I really don't. I mean, Mac Jones, I don't trust him a ton, but I mean, he's got some experience. They're at home. This is going to be, I think, his third game in a row starting, so maybe starting to get a little more comfortable. Yeah, I'm just taking the Jags at home. I've been to a lot of these home Jaguar games against AFC South teams, and they can pull this one off. I mean, both teams are 3-12, so nothing would shock me here.
The only thing I think either of these teams would be playing for is draft position. Jacksonville is 3rd, Tennessee is 4th. So whoever wins flip-flops with the other. Like and just to be like, just to give you guys this, the Bears are at 7, picking 7th at a 4-12. If the Raiders, the Browns lose as well, and Jacksonville and Tennessee, one of those win, they move to 6 instead of 3. So there's a draft, like, that's 3 whole spots. I know it doesn't mean much, but you still want to have that kind of option there, right? Like Jacksonville, again, we talked about what could they do? They've got their quarterback, right? Maybe this is what they're playing for in a sense. I mean, they're still going to go out there and try to win with Mac Jones, whatever the case may be. I'm also going to take Jacksonville, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the draft order depending on wins and losses from the top 6 teams, because the Bears have 4 wins and they're number 7. Like, what a terrible year to be bad in the NFL. With 4 wins, you're the picking 7 instead of like 1st or 2nd, which is, it's just craziness. But yeah, I'm taking the Jags at home. This is going to be like a 12-7 game. I have a feeling it's going to be like 13-7, 15-7, some dumb score.
Just something gross. Something. Yeah, in our next game's probably not any better. So we got the Saints at home against the Raiders. The Raiders were just shut out. Spencer Rattled is what I think his new name is.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing. Now the betting market has been backing the Raiders all week. I've seen the number. Favor the Raiders, and that's just like, I guess, people having no faith after what they saw last week.
Nothing.
Now here's the odd thing. If you were blindfolded and you didn't even know who was playing who, any team that gets blown out the way the Saints did, they tend to cover the spread the following week. That's just the way it is.
Wow.
It's one of those things that's almost a guarantee. And for that reason, I'm going to take the Saints to win it. They're 1.5 point underdogs. I get that they were shut out on Monday, but Vegas also didn't play well last week in their win over the Jaguars. And it's not like there's one team that we can trust, at least. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
The Saints defense, which kind of kept them in close losses against, I think it was Washington. And I think that was 2 weeks ago again. Yeah. They went for 2 at the end and didn't get it. Like, that defense at least kept them in the game. And I think as far as like all 4 units, offense, defense on both sides, I think the Saints defense is the most trustworthy unit in this game. And I think there's also a chance that the Saints are going to have Chris Olave and Derek Carr back for this game. Even if they don't, the Raiders are a team that I'm just not betting on, especially on the road. So I'm backing the Saints at home this week.
Oh, okay. So per the injury report, they're saying still no Kamara and Carr, but again, that depends, right? Like, it's game time. I wonder if these guys are game decisions or not. Most notably, running back Kamara and Derek Carr are out. I don't know. God damn it, man. This is like, we talked about Jacksonville, Tennessee, and this one is just even worse. Like, the Raiders are 3-12, the New Orleans Saints are 5-10. How the fuck did the Saints get to 5-10? I just want people to take this into consideration. The Saints and the Broncos. The Broncos were supposed to have the same amount of wins that the Saints currently have. Are you taking the Saints or the Broncos in a matchup right now? Because I'm taking the fucking Broncos. Like, the Saints have been that bad. Derek Carr injury, that hurts. You got to start Hayner. You got to start Rattler or Spencer been rattled, whatever the fuck what the name was. Spencer has been rattled after last week. It's just such an ugly game. Aiden O'Connell versus Spencer Rattler or Hayner, whoever the fuck the Saints want to start. I guess I got to go with the home team in this case. And yep, there's the injury report right there.
Derek Carr is out.
Did not participate. Oh, okay, so he's gonna be out. Yeah.
And Alvin Kamara is out, and Eric McCoy is out, and Lucas Patrick officially out. This just came out 6 hours ago.
Oh, okay. So there you go. So Derek Carr is going to be out. God, I don't know, man. I want to go with a home team, but Rattler, Hayner, like these guys are not good this year. I don't know if they're ever going to be decent starters, but they have not been good this year at all. And if you ask me, Derek Hayner, Rattler, or Aiden O'Connell, I'm taking Aiden O'Connell. I think I'm going to take the Raiders in this one.
I think I would take Aiden O'Connell, but I just don't think the Raiders defense is going to be able to do what the Packers defense did. So I feel like we might be a little bit like overreacting to Spencer Rattler last week.
Yeah. And I see that, but there's nothing that he's done that inspires any sort of trust in him in this game. I mean, he looks
no. I don't
bad.
I don't trust anyone.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to convince you of that or anything either, but I'm just saying, like, God, this game is a fucking stinker. I'm just gonna go with the Raiders. You're going with the Saints. One of us is gonna be right, and one of them is gonna drop in the draft order or go higher in the draft order. Like that. That's what it is. I'm going Raiders. You're going Saints. That's all we should talk about at this point.
Yeah. I definitely don't think whoever wins is going to be like, I told you.
Dude, I told you Spencer Rattler was going to fucking go off, dude.
All right. This next game's kind of sneaky good. So we got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa's at home, playing for the playoffs right now, fighting with Atlanta for the title, NFC South title. Carolina, 8.5-point underdogs. I mean, if you just look at the last 4 or 5 weeks of football, Bryce Young kind of looks like the first overall pick, and CJ Stroud looks like the second.
Yeah.
That's the way it's looked the last month. I mean, Carolina's the hotter team right now. Just right now, they're the healthier team right now. The Panthers are on a 6-1 roll for covering.
Wow.
So, I mean, Tampa, they're really thin at wide receiver because Sterling Shepard is out and Antonio Winfield is a scratch. Both positions already were, not really they didn't really have any standouts. So like the Bucs needed a last second field goal to extend the game into overtime. Last time they beat Carolina, the Panthers, they've definitely improved since that game. I think Tampa is going to get the win, but I'm taking Carolina plus 8.5. And this is one of those bets I feel really good about this week.
Yeah, I would definitely take the points with the Panthers here, but I am going to take the Bucs as well to win straight up. I don't know, man. Like I feel like I keep saying the Bucs need to win this to get to the division. They've needed to win so many games over the past few weeks to really establish themselves as the division winners that, again, I just don't know like how much that is. I know it's put into consideration, especially going into week 17, in a week 16, in a week 15, especially seeing how Kirk Cousins has played or was playing with the Falcons when he was a starter. The Bucs just have not been able to take advantage of that. And Michael Penix inspired some sort of faith into the Falcons, when he started. But in this case, I got to take the Bucs, man. They just have the much better talent, the more established team. I know we talked about Sterling Shepard being out, but Mike Evans, again, you got Mike Evans, you got McMillan, who's a really good, I think he's a rookie receiver, if I'm not mistaken. He's been doing pretty well so far for the Bucs as well. So, and Baker Mayfield, you got to go with Baker Mayfield. You love not Tank Bigsby, but what's the other running back in Tampa?
Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving, yes. I always get those guys mixed up. But Tank Bigsby is
Bucky
Jacksonville.
Irving,
Bucky Irving is Tampa.
The over. His rushing yards, 79.5.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's
100%.
Going over.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, the Panthers allow an NFL high 5.1 yards per carry. With everything going on at receiver, like they're gonna lean on Bucky Irving, and Bucky Irving's gonna pull through. I take the Panthers in the points, take Bucky Irving with a touchdown, take the yards, and take the under on Chuba Hubbard. He's at 73.5. I don't see him getting that much.
Yeah, I like the team in Tampa more than the Panthers, but you cannot deny how well the Panthers have been playing the last few weeks. You said it. Bryce Young has been playing what a lot of people expected for the number one pick. He's been playing like that in recent weeks. And, when he was thrust into the starting position last year, it was rough. Andy Dalton this year started over him after a few weeks of just really bad play from Bryce Young. Bryce Young took that, probably a lot of conversations going on between the two, and has played pretty damn near excellent from, compared to his starts earlier this year and last season, comparable. I got to take the Bucs at home. They know what's at stake. They know to make the playoffs, they have to win the division. This is a point of emphasis the Todd Bowles has to make to these guys. Like, you guys have to win this fucking game or our season is over next week, after next week, if that is the case. So I'm going to go with the Bucs. They're going to play a little bit more inspired. They got Mike Evans. They got Baker Mayfield. I hope that they win because I really do think it's more exciting watching Baker Mayfield and the Bucs in the playoffs than the Atlanta Falcons. There's something about the Atlanta Falcons. I picked them to win the division this year, but there's something about them this year that has just been like, yeah, they were cool in the first 7-8 weeks of the season, and they've just looked like shit. So I'm going with the Bucs for this one.
All right. It's time for my upset of the week.
Oh.
Now, I've been saying, my upset of the week should have been the Broncos over Bengals.
Nah, that's a win. That's guarantee.
I don't like calling it an upset. One of these teams is going to get to double-digit wins when they win. But this one is the Dallas Cowboys. Let's hop in our little virtual plane and let's fly to Philly together, and let's put ourselves in this atmosphere. Okay, you got the Eagles who are 12-3. Jalen Hurts leaves the game last week. They end up losing that game to the Commanders. Still, I was impressed with how many points Kenny Pickett put up. I was like, wow, didn't expect it. So it was a good loss, if there is such. And then for the Cowboys, they had the most impressive win. I'm so glad I didn't bet on that game because there was really like nothing about me that thought the Cowboys were going to beat the Bucs. Yeah. There was not 1% of me. Yeah. But the Cowboys have just refused to let their season just be a total disaster. And I'm sorry, that's coaching. That's coaching. Mm-hmm. When you lose your starting quarterback, your season's usually derailed. The Cowboys are now 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 with beating the Bucs. They really beat the Bucs. Like, that was not like a fluke last second. They beat them the whole game. Mm-hmm. I like the way the Cowboys are playing right now. I really do. The Eagles, they haven't been automatic lately at home either. They're only 2-4 versus the line. And right now it's at 7.5. So people really expecting Kenny Pickett, because Hurts has been ruled out. You're expecting Kenny Pickett's to win by more than a touchdown against a Dallas team that, even though they're out of the playoff picture, they found an extra gear with Mike McCarthy, and they've won 4 of their last 5. And some of those wins are against Washington and Tampa. I like the way that they're playing right now. Cooper Rush is performing like a capable quarterback. He's performing like what you want your backup to do. If you thought that Mike McCarthy was going to get fired after this season, this will be the final week of thinking that. I'm taking the Cowboys.
Ooh, shit. Cowboys taking it upset of the week. Cooper Rush, you mentioned the man. He has been on fucking fire. He's got like 1,100 yards, 2, 4, 5, 8, 9 touchdowns to 1 interception. 3 out of those 5 games, he's had over 100 quarterback rating. this guy's playing really good football right now. And if you're asking me to take Cooper Rush or Kenny Pickett after the absolute just collapse they had last week against the Commanders, and really most of that is on the defense. Let's be honest. The defense for the Eagles was terrible in the fourth quarter last week against the Commanders. I may go Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is playing much, much better. And Kenny Pickett, we know him from Pittsburgh. We know him in his couple games so far with the Eagles. I may have to agree with you on this one, man. I'm also going to take the Cowboys. The Eagles are already set, and if they lose this game, I believe the NFC East is still up for grabs. If I'm not mistaken, I think they've just clinched the playoff. They've clinched the playoff. They have not clinched the division. If they lose this game, they go to 12-4. If the Washington wins, and we'll talk about them later. If they win, they go to 11-5. It's going to be a week 18. Who wins, right? Like, do the Eagles lose again? And the Commanders, I got to take the Cowboys in this one. The Eagles defense faltered hard last week against the Commanders. The only thing that is kind of just like in my ear, like, don't take the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb is out. They have shut CeeDee Lamb out for the entire season. Well, for the rest of the season. Sorry, the last 2 games of the season, whatever. And I don't know how much of a factor that is going to play for the Cowboys. They got Ferguson at tight end. They got a couple other guys there, receiver. They don't really have a running game. Somehow Cooper Rush has made that work with just a number 1 wide receiver like that. Maybe the defenses have something to do with it too. I'm still going to go Cowboys over the Eagles. The Eagles are going to want to play hard, and Kenny Pickett is going to want to prove that he can still be a capable quarterback. But I think they come up short. I do think this is a field goal type of loss for the Eagles. I will say this is a field goal type of loss for the Eagles. It is going to be a heartbreaker. Do not get me wrong. This is going to be a heartbreaker for the Eagles, but I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going Cowboys to take it at Lincoln Field. They're taking the dub against the Eagles, and it's going to come down to week 18 to whether the Eagles can secure that division.
I got to be honest. I didn't know CeeDee Lamb was out. You just told me that.
Oh, really?
I'm struggling right now.
I don't know, man. Like, I can see the apprehension. There's something about that Eagles defense right now that is not working.
I'm going to ride it.
Okay.
But I do think CeeDee Lamb, it might be the difference in losing. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's that guy. Like, you
100%.
can go on a 10-play, 85-yard drive and score a touchdown, and CeeDee Lamb had 5 catches for 60 yards, like, on that drive. Like, he's
Christ.
just one of those guys that he seemingly always open, and McCarthy just finds a way to scheme him. And who's going to fill that role? And that's what I don't know. Like, no one's going to, but who's going to even come close? I don't know. I made my bet. I'm going to stay in it, but damn,
Let me see what their depth chart is in terms of wide receivers. So,
of course, you got Brandon Cooks,
Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, Jonathan Mingo, which they got from the Panthers, Cavante Turpin, Ryan Flournoy.
Turpin could play a bigger role.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks, Turpin, maybe, like that combination. And they got Jake Ferguson at tight end. But that's kind of it. I mean, Cooper Rush is going to have to do a lot with a little.
Who's the Cowboys' first-round draft pick this year?
That is a
Last year it was Mozzie Smith, I think.
Let's see. Cowboys.
Who was it?
Draft.
It should be a starter, you would think.
Picks. Cowboys.
They trade back?
Tyler Guyton. It was the offensive tackle.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, so he is a starter. You're right. And then in their round 2, they had an edge Marshawn Nealand. And I believe I've heard his name throughout the season through Cowboys games that he's also a starter, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, Tyler Guyton, he's listed as a backup.
Yeah, because
Chuma Edigo is the starting left tackle, and I guess Tyler Guyton's the backup.
Tyler Guyton has started because of injuries. I remember when we streamed Cowboys games, they called out his name a lot for being beat by some of the defensive guys.
Yeah, I think he was struggling a lot with like holding penalties and stuff like that. So, I mean, but that happens with first round offensive, unless you're in the first 5 rounds and getting like a Joe Alt or something. Yeah. Late in the first round, like, I mean, Garrett Bowles struggled for 4 years before he figured it out. So,
and Joe Alt has been outstanding this year.
Yeah. I mean, you know right away why he went that route.
Exactly.
Look at the Giants, and you know they got Malik Neighbors, but they don't have enough time to throw him the ball, so it's pointless.
Bill, where you at?
This next game, the Miami Dolphins at Cleveland Browns. Weather shouldn't be a factor. If I'm going to be in Cincinnati, it's very similar, about 50 degrees, maybe some rain. The Dolphins, I mean, they seem like the team that you trust more. The way they played against the Texans 2 weeks ago, I really haven't forgiven it. Like 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter for Tua, less than 200 passing yards. Tyreek Hill just hasn't been the same lately.
Yeah.
It seemed like they like caught a spark for like a 3 or 4 game. I think it was only 3 games they caught a spark, but they haven't covered the spread in 3 of their last 4. They're 7-8. I don't trust them. I'm gonna pick them to win over like DTR in the 3-12 Cleveland Browns, but
yeah,
I'm gonna call this one like a 23-19 type of a win.
So close, okay.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be ugly. I think it's going to be run heavy for the Dolphins. I think their tight end, what's his damn name? The tight end he's been just really good this season. I think I have his name pulled up here. Here it is, Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, Jonnu Smith. Yeah, he's been doing really well. Smith.
Yeah, he's been doing really well. I like 4.5. I like the over on receptions. I think he's going to play a bigger role. I think they're going to run the football, and I think they're going to end up with like a 4-point win. And that's why the 19 for Cleveland just seems like that just accounts for the rain. 23-19.
23-19. Jerry Jeudy, I'm trying to see, ever since his game against the Broncos, he has had, it looks like, a total of 200 yards in the last 3 games. Steelers, Chiefs, Bengals, 18 receptions, just over 200 yards, 1 touchdown. And I think that's all been with DTR. So I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take the Dolphins here, the much more established relationship between quarterback, wide receiver, the running game, Devon Achane, Jonnu Smith at tight end. God, the Dolphins defense has been decent at times. I feel like they're going to have a fucking day against Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I'm going to take the Dolphins as well. I mean, unless there's like a blizzard and below freezing conditions that the Dolphins just suck in, and you're saying there's not. So I'm taking the Dolphins to win this one. I think it's going to be, I'm going to go 17-9. Another ugly score, but I think the Dolphins can get a couple touchdowns on the board, and the Browns are going to be lucky to get those field goals because they're going to get in range. And real quick, Bill in the chat, if we could have a quarterback that could throw with anticipation, it wouldn't be a problem, Rick. Oh, and you rang. Bill, thanks for being here. We also got Nick. I want Dolphins Browns to be a full Jameis game. If he was playing, Nick, I think it would be a much closer game. Would you agree, Kyle?
Yeah, and you know, part of my just lack of faith in Miami right now is when you look at the Dolphins' last 3 road games, which I'm seeing right now, they've scored 12, 17, and 23 points. The Browns have scored 27 points in their last 3 games. So
They've scored what?
27
Oh, 27. Combined?
in their last 3.
Wait, are we talking Dolphins or?
The Browns.
Oh, Browns. Ugh, God
Yeah, they
damn,
scored
that's disgusting.
6 against the Bengals, 7 against the Chiefs, 14 against the Steelers. And then when they had Jameis Winston, they scored 32 against the Broncos. But the point is like with DTR at quarterback, the Browns just aren't scoring. They're just not. So yeah, that's why I'm going. Like if they made an announcement that Jameis Winston was starting in this game, I'm probably going Browns here just because of the way the Dolphins have played in their last 3 road games. I've just lost all confidence in them. Not that I ever had a ton this year, but the little bit I did have is gone. And the Browns at home this time of year tend to give like their fans some. It seems like every year this time of year you see like a home game for the Browns and they win a game they weren't supposed to, and you're like, I'm so glad they did that for their fans.
Yeah, I love this comment by Nick. This could be a game on the level of Bears Seahawks, which I want to touch on that, but we're going to get through our predictions, and I want to touch on that just a little bit.
I want to hear it.
Yeah, but all right. So we both got the Dolphins.
We both got the Dolphins. Okay. All right. Now, I didn't call my upset of the week, the Broncos game. I'm not calling my game of the week, the Broncos game, although, of course, that goes without saying. I'm going to just, to be different, my game of the week is the Green Bay Packers at Minnesota Vikings. I'm telling you right off the bat, I'm taking the Packers. I think I mentioned that after they beat the Saints 33-0. I think 34-0. I was like, hey, just so everyone's clear, going Packers next week. I think the Packers, they're 11-4. The Vikings are 13-2. I think the Packers are the better football team right now. Now this time of year, we've learned something about the Packers. We kind of learned it last year, but now it's 2 years in a row, and Jordan Love has now gone more than a month without throwing an interception. After leading the NFL in interceptions for a large part of the year, the Packers have the better offensive line when you compare it to the Vikings, and I think pass protection is going to be an issue for the Vikings. It's been an issue in different games this season. The Packers, they clearly have the better running game, one of the best in the NFL, top 5, and they nearly overcame Jordan Love like coming back maybe too earlier in the season to play the Vikings, and I think they were down like 24-0 or something crazy. And the Packers almost came back in the second half and won that game. Crazy hat trick didn't work out. Packers end up losing. The Vikings are like, oh man, we got away with that one. Good thing we kicked their ass in the first half, right? And I just think this time of year, the Vikings are due for a loss. Jordan Love moved the ball really well on Brian Flores' defense last time they played. The Packers can win this game in a lower scoring or higher scoring fashion. Whatever it's going to be, I think the Packers are good for it. You want to go 17-10? Give me Packers. You want to go 34-31? I'll take the Packers. I think when you look at Jordan Love in December and January, this is when the Packers are at their best.
Yeah, and their last game was a close one, 31-29.
34-0, 30-13. Their last 2 games now, they've outscored their opponents 64-13.
Jesus Christ. I am going to...
And they're 5-0 in their last 5 against the spread.
going to disagree. I'm going to go Vikings to win at home. The Vikings are in an 8-game win streak right now. And probably are due for that loss, like you're saying. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, even at home, they were able to beat the Packers at Lambeau. And to your point, it took a first half ass whooping to kind of keep that comfortable lead. And then the Packers kind of stormed right back. And, you know, this is a divisional matchup. The Vikings are going to want to win because they have a pretty damn good shot at taking the division, the NFC North. And that means the number 1 seed in the NFC. So they're playing at a very good level. My God, Kevin O'Connell and Sean Payton, neck and neck, coach of the years right now. In my opinion, that's who I'm voting for. If I get 2 votes, I'm going Sean Payton, Kevin O'Connell because of what they've been able to do this year. But Kevin O'Connell, I mean, we talk about Sam Darnold. You know, he's coming from the 49ers last season, going into the starting position this year after J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. There was somewhat of a competition, but I felt like we all knew that Darnold was going to have the starting job. But to be at 13-2 with Sam Darnold is insane, and he has a lot of the talent around him to make Sam Darnold look great, but they're going to have a huge issue this offseason. Either way, regardless, this season, the Vikings are doing really, really well against the division. They're doing extremely well against the division, and I think it's going to continue in Week 17. I think the Vikings are going to be able to beat the Packers, and I think it's going to be a much closer game. Oh, no. Please don't. Please don't do it. Don't you fucking do it. I'm going to do the skull. I swear to God, if you do that, I'm doing skull. I'm doing skull. 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 Skull.
Give me the Packers.
I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. I'm going to go with the Vikings at home. I'm thinking they're going to extend their streak to 9 wins. But you make a lot of good points. The Packers defense has been outstanding, especially the last few games. Like you said, they've outscored their opponents 60 plus, like what, 20, 30 points? That's
to 13.
Yeah, it's crazy what they've done, and that defense is a huge part of it. But I think it is, I'm going to go with what you said, like that 34-37 type of score. It's going to be a shootout. I have a feeling it's going to be a shootout. I think the Minnesota Vikings, though, come out on the with the edge and come out with the win. This is probably going to be a 3-point win, if not less. It's going to be either 1, 2, or 3 points that this game is going to be decided by. But I'm going to give the edge to the Vikings because they're at home, and this is such a close game between 2 very good teams in the NFC. But the Packers, again, haven't had a lot of, impressive wins. I think they're going to make the playoffs, man, and they're going to do their damn best to stay in it after the wild card round, because that's what the Packers do every time they're in the playoffs. I just think in this case, Week 17, it's going to be the Vikings that are going to be just that much better than the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, let's just cut the crap and get down to brass tacks here. All right? The Packers, whether they win this game, does it matter? I'm not sure, because the Vikings, if they lose to the Packers and then they get beat by the Lions, which I don't know. I mean, if the Lions beat the 49ers, they'll be a 14-win team. So, like,
yeah,
I have a lot of questions about the NFC North right now, because here are my main questions. If the Lions win against the 49ers and they're 14-2, but then they lose to the Vikings next week if the Packers beat them this week, and then that would mean that the Lions and Vikings split the series, and they would both be 14-3. So
no. The Vikings lose this week, they go to 13-3.
Right.
The Lions. I'm sorry. The Vikings go to 14-2. Or sorry, if they lose to the Packers 13-3, the Lions win 14-2.
Right.
Next week. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I thought I had the numbers wrong.
So
go ahead.
So I'm wondering who would win if they had the same record and they split the season series. And then, and also for the Packers, if they win this game and they move to 12-4, the Vikings move to 13-3. And then next week, the Vikings lose to the Lions and the Packers win their last game, who would be the Bears, I believe.
No, because the Bears have lost to all the NFC North teams.
No, I'm saying the Packers play the Bears next week, right?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
So if the Packers win their final two and the Vikings lose to the Packers and the Lions, then the Packers and the Packers and the Vikings would both have a 13-4 record. Where would that put? Because the Packers and Vikings also would have a split, right? The Vikings won 1, the Packers won 1. They're both 13-4. Would the Packers be the 5 and the Vikings be the 6? And if the Vikings and Lions are tied and they split the series, do the Vikings get the 1 and the Vikings drop to 5? Like the only way to know, because if you split the head-to-head, doesn't it go off of division record?
The head-to-head goes to division record, and after that it goes to conference, and after that it goes to strength of opponent.
So division record would be the first
decider,
the first decider. So
sorry, head-to-head.
Oh, okay, yeah. So head-to-head, but in my case, I'm saying in these cases where they would be split
division.
So you look at the division record. So the Lions are 5-0 in the division. If the Vikings beat the Packers and the Lions next week, then both of them would have a 5-1 division record. So then you would have to go to conference record.
Oh, the Lions and the Vikings. Yeah.
And then the conference record, they would both, believe it or not, they would both be 9-2.
Yeah. And then at that point, like Bill says, strength of schedule.
And then strength of schedule. I mean, how do you even... Is that determined in the before week 1 or after week 18?
Great question, because that is something I've been hearing the last couple of weeks. And I was like, so does strength of schedule literally mean wins and losses of the teams that you have played currently after you've played the Vikings? So in this situation, like you're saying, Vikings and Lions have the same record, divisional record, conference record, strength of schedule. Is it determined at that point in time? Or, like you're saying, is this a strength of schedule determined in the preseason? Is this a strength of schedule determined at the time of play or once all games have been played? And what does that mean exactly? Like how many teams are playing against playoff teams? How many teams or what the record is of these teams? Like, I really don't know, dude. Like that, but that's something I've been hearing a while.
Oh, so here is the answer, at least for the Lions Vikings. If the Packers beat the Vikings cannot get the 1 seed because the Lions win the tiebreaker, because against divisional opponents, Detroit would be 5-1. Currently they're 5-0. And then Minnesota would fall to 4-2 because they would lose. They've already lost to Detroit once, and then losing to the Packers would be 2 divisional losses. So if the Packers beat them this week, the Vikings, the best they can do is 5. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If the Packers and Vikings are both, because the best the Packers can be is 13-4. If the Packers and Vikings are both 13-4, then the tiebreaker between the two, because both would be 13-4, would come down to best won lost tied percentage in common games. And I'm not going to take the time to figure that out right now, but it's a tight race, and this game matters big time.
Immensely. Yeah.
I mean, for the Vikings, it's like, you want to be at home no matter what, or do you want to be on the road pretty much no matter what? I mean, that's what's at stake in this one football game. So doesn't get much bigger than that as far as the odds. You're going Vikings at home. I'm going with the Packers, and this should be the game of the week. I think this will be a good one. It should have been flexed to Saturday night or Sunday night football or Saturday night. Cause what did they give us Saturday night? The
Cardinals at Rams.
Cardinals and Rams. Yeah. I'll take Packers Vikings.
100%. I'd much rather watch that.
But let's move to Sunday night football because I think that they at least do have a good Sunday night football game ready for us. Michael Penix and the Atlanta Falcons going to Washington to take on Jaden Daniels. We got 2 rookie quarterbacks, one selected, 5 overall, one selected 2 overall.
Mm-hmm.
And the Falcons are 4-point underdogs. This is a wild card of a game because we don't know too much about Penix. We know that he's playing better than Kirk Cousins right now. But Jaden Daniels, I've noticed this trend with him where really great first halves, not the best second halves in a lot of games.
Right.
Last week, he ends up edging out Kenny Pickett and throwing a touchdown at the end of the game. And, people are like, he just secured offensive rookie of the year. Fair enough. Clutch matters. Winning matters. But he also was like the first quarterback in years to throw like 4 interceptions or have 5 turnovers and win the football game. It was like some crazy stat that they brought up. Maybe that was just the Commanders because I think the Lions did something close to that against the Texans.
Yeah, Goff, yeah.
But, the point is like that was as much as like Jaden got the glamour and the trophy after the game, there was a lot to not like about the way he played in that game at times. But when you win in the end, it's all that matters. But it doesn't mean I'm going to forget about it when we're trying to pick a winner this week. I'm looking at this game and I think, Daniels fully healthy again. When he's drifting outside of the pocket, moving to his right, he tends to pick up big chunk plays of yards on the ground or through the air. He's run for 66 yards or more in 3 of the last 4 games.
I'm going to take a quick pee for the D, Kyle, real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And he's run for 50 yards or more in 4 of the last 6 home games. Atlanta is 28th in total expected yards per attempt versus QB runs, meaning they give up a shit ton of yards to quarterbacks. So I like Jaden Daniels to have at least 50 rushing yards in this game. I like the Commanders being at home in this situation in front of their home crowd at this point, potentially. They already saw Philly lose in an upset to the Cowboys, which maybe just gives them that extra boost of momentum to say, hey, we can still win this division. And then they kick off. I mean, on the other side, and this is why it's a wild card for me, Michael Penix, he did a good job attacking downfield last week. He didn't take a sack. And that would be impressive in itself, but it's even more impressive when you realize he was pressured 14 times by the Giants. The Falcons offense is much more dangerous with Michael Penix under center. And this is why I was protesting for 5 weeks in a row to bench Kirk Cousins if they wanted to salvage their season. And they did it. I mean, it's better late than never, right? Because bad organizations, they make bad decisions and they stick with them. At least the Falcons pivoted. Even if it was a week too late, they still did it in a situation where they could still make the postseason. And this is one of those games where he knows that if he goes out there, he can actually be that rookie that saves the season. And because of that, hosts a playoff game. This is going to be his first road start in what I would expect to be a playoff type atmosphere. I like Atlanta to be very competitive in this game with the division title in sight, but the Commanders coming off a really draining divisional upset. I think they're priced a little too high here at -4.5. I don't know who's going to win the game, but I'll tell you, I'm going to take Atlanta +4.5.
Ooh, Atlanta 4.5. I could see that. Are you still taking the Commanders straight up?
I think the Commanders could win by a field goal. But
Yeah.
I also see Jaden Daniels having between 50 and 60 rushing yards in this game. And the one thing you did miss, Penix didn't take a sack all last week, but he was also pressured 14 times.
Oh, wow.
So Penix, I mean, he was when the quarterback's eyes are the window to their soul. We say it all the time. He was going boom, 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 back to his first read, throwing the ball. Like, he was put into the game, and you could just tell he could feel it. He could feel it.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
making throws, good throws to Drake London. Like, he was like, hey, this is my guy. I got to get him the ball. I'm a rookie. I need to lean on my playmakers, and he knew who they were, and he knew where they were. And I like the way it all looked. I'm not saying Atlanta's going to win. I'm not shocked if they do. I just don't see them losing by 4.5 points. I think Washington's priced a little too high because of a win over Kenny Pickett. At the very end of the game, I think Atlanta could win this one outright. I do.
Yeah, I don't like either of these defenses either. I think we've talked like a lot throughout this season about both of these defenses, especially the Falcons, not being very good at applying pressure at the quarterback, getting to the quarterback. And the Commanders are probably not up there either. And we saw Marshawn Lattimore last week. You know, their prized trade week possession, right? Like, he got worked, man. He got worked by Devontae Smith, by A.J. Brown, whoever it was on the Commander side. He got worked, so I don't know how well Marshawn Lattimore is going to fare against your Drake Londons, your Kyle Pitts, your Bijan Robinsons, right? Like, if he's in that coverage with the number one, even your tight end, like, he might get beat. So I can honestly see this being a very high-scoring game based on both of these quarterbacks and how they've played. Jaden Daniels, obviously, throughout this entire season, and how he's pretty much, up there in terms of Offensive Rookie of the Year consideration. And Penix, his first start last week after, almost munching down on a Costco hot dog. And he played well. Like you said, if he's going progression through progression through progression and just being able to make that pass, especially with Drake London, I should say, and the other talent he's got on the field, this is going to be a high-scoring game, I think. And the Commanders, in my opinion, are going to come out on top. I think it does get down to like a field goal type of game, but I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't think it's anything crazy in your 40s, but I think it's going to be like a, 31-28, 34-31 type of game. I think it gets into the low 30s. But I'm going to take the Commanders. I'm going to take Jaden Daniels at home with the NFC East still kind of in limbo. It depends on what happens with the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. This is a huge stage for two of the top 10 drafted quarterbacks to be playing. And you look on the other side with the Falcons, they still want to win this NFC South. They know, again, like I was talking about with the Bucs, they have to win the NFC South in order to get into the playoffs. They know what is at stake. Penix knows what's at stake, and this is going to be a good game. This is actually going to be my game of the week because of the rookie quarterbacks and the things, the playoff implications, really, that are at stake here for both of these teams.
Love it. And I think Rick has a fan here. Rick could be sexy even reading instructions. He doesn't understand and just keeps saying, okay, and then repeating directions slower as if he's on the verge of figuring them out. Basically a stud.
I love you, Ginger. You're the fucking bomb. Hey, Kyle, you got one too? Kyle, I would definitely call you back the next day too. Don't get me wrong. Our fans literally love us that much.
Yeah, and we love them.
We love them.
Okay, Monday Night Football, our final game of the very important, significant Week 17 slot. Mm-hmm. This one, I don't I don't think it is important. Now for the Lions, a win combined with a Packers win, which I'm predicting a Packers win. And by the time this game kicks off, the Detroit Lions could very well know that if they win this game, they're the 1 seed in the NFC. And that would be just enough to play for. Now, part of me thinks that the 49ers are going to mess around and play a close game here. That the 49ers are 3.5 point underdogs. I think this could be like a 27-24 Detroit win. There's not a ton to love about the 49ers this year, but they are coached well. Brock Purdy is still playing for a contract. Like, he doesn't want to be a $30 million guy or, $35 million. He's trying to be a $50-60 million guy.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to play for here. Last season, the Lions had the 49ers pretty much right where they wanted them, 24-7 at halftime. And everybody was like, the Lions are going to the Super Bowl, man. It's a wrap.
Yeah.
And I think because of the season the 49ers have had this year, people kind of forgot what this game means to the Niners. Now, think about being able to punch your number 1 seed by playing the team that denied you the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That is like... God, are you sure there's no script writers?
True, right? Yeah.
That and obviously the 49ers end up winning 34-31 and things a lot different this year. 49ers are 6-9. The Lions are 13-2. The Niners, a ton of problems. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, all missing. I mean, if you just saw the injury report, you would be like, oh, so basically everybody that's good on the 49ers is out. The Lions are 7-0 on the road. The Lions, I said I could see it being like a 24-27 type of game. Give me the Lions 31-10.
Oh, shit. They want that revenge, though. You're right. That is a very, very good point that I didn't even really consider. Like, the 49ers are the team that said, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl last year, not you. And crazy stat. I forget if it's like 22 or 24 years, but for 22 years, the 49ers, I'm going to say 22 because I'm pretty sure that's the number. 22 years, the 49ers have either gone to the NFC Championship or have not made the playoffs. That is what the 49ers have been for the last 2+ decades. Isn't that such a crazy, weird stat for the 49ers? And we've known the 49ers the last few years, 5-7 years, and even when Jim Harbaugh was there, right? Like, they've been good and they've been bad. They have been really good. Again, NFC Championship, Super Bowl type of team, and they have been bad. Low level, 4th place in the division, nowhere near a playoff opponent, a playoff team. But for 22 years, that has been the stat. It's such a crazy stat. And I kind of wish the Bears were like that. Like, not going to lie. Like, I wish it was like NFC or no playoffs. But regardless, what a great way to kind of frame this game too, Kyle, is like the Lions win this and they've got the number 1 seed, because that's exactly right. They win this game and they lose next week against the Vikings. They have the better division record. Yeah, they're split head to head, but they have the better division record at the end of the day. So, and that's if the Vikings lose and the Packers win, like you're saying. But what a great way to punch their ticket into the number 1 seed than that of beating the team that denied them the Super Bowl last year. And I'm sure Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, a lot of the same players in the Lions from last season and that same game are going to be looking at this with that same sort of point of view that you pointed out. So I'm going to take the Lions to beat the 49ers as well. I'm going to go 27-14. That's what the score I'm going to call it, 27-14. It's going to be a double-digit win.
Yeah, and just something to keep in mind too. We mentioned the people that are definitely out. Isaac Guerrero, he is kind of dealing with a foot hamstring issue. Anytime you see somebody's like limited in practice and then it's multiple body parts, like that doesn't look good, right? It's one thing if it's like limited with a hamstring. It's like, well, maybe depending on where he's at with that. But when you see like hamstring / foot, it's like, ugh, that's like
it's a bad day.
That's not good. Yeah, it's like you need both, to be able to be a running back. And then Kyle Juszczyk's dealing with an illness, and he didn't practice today. So, if they have to go without them two, it's even more tilting in the Lions' side. But those are our Week 18 predictions. I hope you liked them. Bill and Jinja, you guys missed something really important when I was talking about the Broncos and the Bengals. Now, if the Broncos win that game, they will punch their ticket to the playoffs for the first time in a decade. And guys, I'm going to be there. I'm going to the game tomorrow. I have to. I have to see this. If it happens, I have to be there. I've 10 years. I have to be there. I have to be in the room. I want to see Garrett Bowles and Courtland Sutton walking off into the visitor locker room, arm over arm, with the other hand over eyes.
Making out.
If that's what it takes. If that's what it takes. And Jinja, he said, are you going to throw money on it? I don't, as much as I love NFL betting, I hate Broncos betting.
Yeah, I know.
Because
I hate Bears
if
betting.
you lose twice.
Yeah.
I lost $10 and I lost the Broncos. So no, if I do any betting, it'll be prop betting, and it'll be like Audric Estimate. I have over 40 yards, and I think there was Franklin, our Troy Franklin. He was supposed to have, I think, 2.5 catches. I'll probably hit the over on that. I don't know why it's so low, but the straight up game, I'm not going to mess with it, because what you guys don't know is when I flew into Vegas one time, I was walking out. It was a layover, and I only stayed the night. They put me in a hotel because it was a flight delay. And when I was walking out, I saw this sports betting. I never seen it before in my life. And I walked over there, and it was a game called the Strot, where you pick 12 spreads, and you got to get everyone right. If you get one wrong, the whole ticket's gone. And if no one wins, then the money rolls over to the next week. And it was up to $84,000. And I did mine 12. I did the one. I remember I was stuck on 2 games, Broncos, Raiders, and then the 49ers were playing the Rams. And right when I was filling it out, I had everything filled out. I was like, I'll go back to the 49ers game. I'm not going to ponder it. I just want to feel it. If I get stuck on one game, I'll overthink the other. It's like a test, right? When you just got to skip the questions you don't know.
Yeah. And
I kind of flew through it, and I'm like, cool, that was easy. I got 2 that I don't know. And I go back to the 49ers, and I look next to me, and there's a guy with a Niners hat on. And I always say, no one knows their team like their fans. And I told him, I said, brother, I need some honesty. Where are you at with the 49ers this week? And he's like, oh, win. Easy. And I was like, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. And then the other one was Broncos -3, or it was like -2 or something. I took the Broncos. 1 o'clock goes by, I won all the games. 4 o'clock goes by, the 4:05, I won them all. The Broncos game is my last game. The Broncos are up 10 points with 2 minutes left, and they're running the football. The Raiders are out of timeouts. Oh, I am booking my flight to Vegas because I just won $84,000.
Oh, my God.
Javonte Williams fumbles the football when we're running the clock out. Raiders recover the ball, drive down, and score a touchdown. Somehow get an onside kick, get the ball, kick the game-tying field goal, win the coin toss in overtime, receive the ball in the third play of overtime. Devontae Adams, 80-yard touchdown.
I remember that.
Waving goodbye to the Bronco fans.
Yeah.
And, none of that would have happened if I just didn't bet on the Broncos. And that was my moment. I was like, never, ever, ever again, because sometimes you just can't separate the heart and the mind. You can't. As much as you think you can, you can't. Because imagine if I would have picked the Raiders and the Broncos were running that clock down and they didn't fumble.
Yeah.
I would have been like, what is wrong with me?
Yep. And every time I do that same thing, and I don't bet online. I don't do any of that stuff, but like I bet with friends, I bet with coworkers, things like that. Every time I bet the Bears, it goes the other way.
Yeah.
Luckily, though, it's not in such a heartbreaking way that you experience, Kyle.
Oh, dude,
but it's just been like straight up
weeks.
Yeah.
Like, and it's crazy because it was $5. That's what I risked. But it still felt like I lost $84,000. Like, it was so hard to explain. Like, I remember coming home and like, I couldn't even talk. Like, I was just like, I don't want to talk about it. I had to call everybody because I had just called like all of my family. And I'm like, I'm fucking booking my ticket. And like in literally a span of like 4.5 minutes, my life changed.
Oh, God.
And I had to make all those phone calls.
That's so much money, too. Jesus Christ. But look,
it
Ginger
would have helped a ton at that time of my life, too.
Ginger's rooting for you. Let me find the Russ jersey, and I'll send you a picture of me and my daughter wearing the jerseys you sent last year. I know right where the PS2 jersey is, though. She can wear Russ. Go Broncos. Let's go, Ginger.
I need you guys tomorrow. I need you guys, all of you. If you're like, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch the game, I need you guys to watch the game. I need you guys to turn the game on.
Guys.
I need you guys. I need the energy. I believe in energy. I need you guys to be watching, knowing that I'm in that crowd, and I need you to manifest this. We are going to beat the Bengals tomorrow. We're going to the playoffs. Put it out there. I need you tomorrow. Don't forget. 3, 4 o'clock, Brick, 1 o'clock, right around this time, lives are changing forever.
I love it.
Well, let's talk about that because we did want to brush on the playoff picture before we wrapped it all up.
So we can definitely look into that because we've talked about
Bears, Seahawks.
Oh, God. Yeah, let me touch on that real quick. That and a lot of the people in this chat right now are here. I know Nick was here. I believe Ginger, you were there as well. Bill, Richard, a lot of you guys were in here during that stream. And we got a new subscriber, by the way. His name is Tristan. He's a Seahawks fan. He was actually at the game in Chicago yesterday. So shouts out to Tristan.
I saw that, but I was confused. I was like, is he like on YouTube while he's at the game? Because I was like, man, I'm just impressed. The dedication to be able to be in that environment and also be on YouTube. Sorry, you were breaking up, so I was just filling the space. But
appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on. Of course, it happens at this part, just like the Bears. The Bears yesterday. Huge shouts out to Tristan though for being there and still listening on the stream on Thursday Night Football. But that was the worst game. I feel like I say this a lot, and especially during this season, but to score 3 points in the entirety of that game, and credit to the Seahawks defense because they were actually doing really well, but I felt more like it was the Bears just not executing, shooting themselves in the foot. That was such a terrible game. That was such a shit Thursday Night Football game, but that kind of follows the pattern of Thursday Night Football. It's bad football. It is bad football. Nick, that was the worst game, Rick, after being subjected to the Bears. Every single time, it doesn't matter. But the thing that was crazy was that at the end, as the Bears were kind of driving down, that offensive line was letting anyone and everyone through. If Virginia McCaskey's 103-year-old ass was a defensive end on the Seattle Seahawks last night, she would have been able to get through on a sack on Caleb Williams. Again, driving there, line letting everybody through. Caleb threw miracle passes, and somehow we're being caught by Rome and DJ Moore to give us hope. On that 4th and inches, when the fucking offensive lineman jumped because of a snap, he jumped. It was a false start. 4th and 5, punt comes out, timeout. Thomas Brown sends the offense out there. What the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? What are these decisions? Why does it take a timeout, a false start, a timeout, a fucking offense going out there from the punt unit to just not be able to get a first down into an interception? Caleb's first in like 10 weeks, whatever the case was. I was just like, this is such bad football being played. I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, again, it was, you guys could see the stream. Look at the replay of the stream I had last night at Thursday Night Football, and you guys could just see me being like, this is the worst game I've ever seen the Bears play. This is like 4 years of Nagy was better than whatever bullshit game was there yesterday.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I don't know. It was so bad. Nick was like, I was there. It was wonderful. See, people love seeing the pain. People love seeing the pain. And I can't blame you. I love seeing the pain too. But Jesus Christ, mine has been going on for 10 games straight. Kyle, 10 losses in a row.
Yep, and it stems from the Hail Mary. And what's really difficult for people to figure out right now is now, not talking about like Caleb Williams and is he going to work out? Is he not going to work out? I'm not really interested in that conversation this year. The one that I am curious about is there is a common theme with quarterbacks that take the most sacks in the league, where it feels like, and I know this because I had Russell Wilson 2 years ago, and him and Justin Fields both had 50 sacks, and that led the NFL that year. I know Caleb's blowing that out of the water this year, but that was the most that year. And what I noticed from Russell Wilson, and I noticed from watching Caleb Williams, now I don't know if it's because of the sacks or if this is just something he's got to work through, but there were plays where the ball snapped and he's got DeAndre Swift as like a safe option on a quick screen, and he wants to push the ball downfield. And the screen, he's got blockers. Like the screen is like the check down. It seems like with the more sacks a quarterback takes through the duration of the season, the more I feel like the quarterback feels pressured to get it all back in one play. Yeah. Like I have to have a great play. There needs to be some kind of great play so that I can at least remind everybody that I'm Russell Wilson, or like I deserve to be the number one overall, whatever the case is. Like, and I felt like there were, I mean, it wasn't just me. Kirk Kirkstreet, he was complimenting Caleb all night, but there was also moments where he's like, see, that right there is a throw where it's like, you got the blockers. That's a 7-yard play. Just get rid of the ball and go on to the next down. Like, don't try to force the ball to Rome Odunze down the field. Just take what you're getting. And the one drive that I saw they did go on that was like, they started on the 6, they got moved back to the 3, and then went all the way to the 20 before they got some penalties installed and made their first field goal.
So bad.
I guess that was their only field goal.
That was it. That's the only points they scored. That's it.
Yeah, dude, it's so weird because coincidentally, I was super busy, and that was the only drive I actually saw. And I was like, shit, that was a good drive. I guess the Bears are going to, like be able to move the ball tonight. And then at the end of the game, I saw a tweet. I didn't even see the game final. I just saw a tweet that was like, we owe this game an apology. And it was the Broncos Colts game.
I tagged in it. Yep.
You sent it to me. Yeah. And I was like, oh no. Yeah. And I just Googled Bears. And the first thing that comes up, 3-6. And I'm like, Oh my God, I saw their only points on that one drive. And that was the drive where I noticed there were times where Caleb was just like not taking the easy play. And
Yeah.
I feel like it maybe getting to
Yeah.
his head a little bit. And the weird thing was when you looked at the post-game press conference of Caleb Williams, because I always watch those. I want to see his body language. I want to see the way he's talking. I got to say, there is only one thing that's, because I can't judge Caleb this year. You just can't. But the one thing that I just kind of don't like a little bit, just between you and me, is like, I don't feel like he's mad enough. Like when I'm watching the press conference, like I just want a little bit of like, this is fucking unacceptable. Like our defense held them to 6 points. Like we got to be better than that. I just feel like he's doing a really good job. And look, people criticize him for being too emotional. Now we're criticizing him for being non-emotional.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a fine line. And I think at that, I mean, this is the point of the season, 10 losses in a row. And that one, I mean, that's the one where it's like, it's okay to be a little bit like, a little bit of fire is okay. I think it almost calls for it. Yeah. And not only did I not really like feel that in the press conference, if I didn't know the score, I would have thought that it was like maybe like a 24-21 loss or something like that. And then the comments are all like, Caleb is not the problem. Caleb's not the problem. Caleb's not the problem. And I'm like, I'm glad like all Bears fans can at least unify over Caleb not being the problem. But I'm not sure why after a game like that, everyone is like going out of their way to say that. Like that's just not the game where like you lose 31-38, but Caleb has like 400 yards passing, and it's like, all right, well at least we know it's not Caleb. It's like it was a game where you needed to score one touchdown would have won the game, and you got a field goal. So like I'm not saying Caleb is the problem. I'm just saying the Bears fans, I'm wondering why they are. I'm just kind of wondering a lot of things. Like, where are they at? Like, do you guys feel that way when you hear him in the press conference? I mean, like the fire, a little bit of being pissed off, like because you guys are fucking pissed. Like, I feel like the franchise quarterback, you never want your players or coaches. You know, you've said it all the time. Like, we like when our coaches are like screaming on the sideline when it calls for it.
Yeah.
And I felt like this was one of those moments that called for it. What did you think?
So for me, what I will say is, as I'm a Bears fan, I watch every game to my own fucking, mental health being lowered. He shows a lot, and I mean a lot of emotion on the sidelines in the game. Even last night, there was like a timeout being called at some point, and him kind of looking at the sideline to Thomas Brown and being like, what are we like? I don't know what he said. I couldn't read. I couldn't really lip read, but in my head, he's like, what are we doing? Why are we calling a timeout? Can we get the play off? So he is showing what Bo Nix was showing. What was it, week 3? When Sean was yelling at him and he was yelling back, and Drew Brees was like, you got to give that to Sean. You got to give it back to him, right? He was showing that during that specific point in time. So I get what you're saying. Like, can we not see that in the press conference? But I think Caleb is very much, I don't know have you ever watched the show Ted Lasso on Apple TV? Do you remember when he says, hey, we just got to be goldfish. We got to forget, right? We got to have a short memory.
Yeah.
I think what Caleb does in those situations in the press conference is the emotion, what happened, we got to forget about it in a sense where we don't use the emotions to talk about the game. Is he going to say it was disappointing? I fucked up. I put this loss on me. I should have done more. He's going to say all those things. And I think quarterbacks and coaches and other star players on a lot of NFL teams are going to do the same exact thing.
If you are like if you're that guy, You're always going to do that, even if it's not on you, but not like cliche. Like
Not
you
in a
really
cliche way,
feel
yeah.
that if your team only gave up 6 points and you couldn't win that game, like I don't care what the circumstances are. Like if you're
Yeah.
a leader, I mean, if you have that in you, that instinct, like you're going to be like, you're going to feel sick with yourself a little bit. Like you're going to be like, I know that we didn't have a line. I know that we don't have a coach. I know all that, but still, like, I gotta deliver these type of games to Chicago. Like that's
Yeah.
on me. And like,
And that's
no
what he
matter
said.
yeah.
He said that. He's like, I'm putting this one on me. And there was a lot of people that like that, that like that type of honesty. And even though he didn't say it in a way like you and I would say it, like, oh, this loss is on me. This was a fucking terrible. Like, I should have made more passes. I should have taken the easy route with DeAndre Swift. Should have given it to Rome 7 yards down the field instead of going for Keenan Allen 20 yards down the field, right? Like, I think he's just, it's just a sense of like, okay, I've got to say these right things because I am just a rookie. He is very, very aware that he is a rookie and that he is not in a position of making decisions at those levels yet, even though I think he probably should in certain situations. But I still don't think that a lot of this is on Caleb. He was under pressure a lot. Even Nick says it here. Caleb isn't the problem. He's the victim of that offensive line. And what I will say is yes, but also he holds on to the ball a lot. So when he says in press conferences post-game that this loss is on me, I think he's referring to those certain things. Like the fact that the Seattle Seahawks only scored 6 and I couldn't score 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on me. The fact that I held on to the ball for too long with actually pretty damn good protection from my god-awful offensive line, yeah, that's on me. So I think he encapsulates all of that wrongdoing on his end into I'm putting this loss on my shoulders because I could have done better.
And I think he had, what did he have? Like 122 passing yards or something?
Something like that.
Exactly. I don't know how I remember this shit. I saw it and I just remembered.
It's like, wow, that's so bad.
I guess that's probably why I remembered.
That's why, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, anytime. But one thing I will say is like, we played the Seahawks week 1, and the Seahawks, Mike McDonald, the head coach over there, like a rookie quarterback against somebody like that, it's a tough out. No, it's a tough out for any rookie quarterback. I don't care if you're the first or the 6th. Look at the rookie quarterbacks that have tried to play against that guy. I mean,
and especially with just the dysfunction going on in the Bears organization. I don't know who is going to survive this offseason in terms of personnel, in terms of front office. I don't know what's going to happen. I really have never been so like confused and like, who's going to make it? Is Ryan Poles going to be the GM next year? Is anyone from this Bears coaching staff going to even get a chance? Is Thomas Brown even going to get an actual look as a head coaching candidate? Because I don't think so. I really don't think so now at this point.
How does like, and in one hand, it's like Caleb's like mad about the coach calling timeout, but at the same time, like as far as game management, I feel like he lost a lot of the trust with the way the Detroit Lions game ended, where it was like 45 seconds just drained until they just were like, I guess we're throwing a Hail Mary here.
And that was one of the situations where I was just saying earlier, like, I feel like he should have taken that situation particularly into his own hands and been like, timeout, dude. Why have you, the head coach, Eberflus, not called timeout? And why does a rookie quarterback have to call this timeout? I feel like in that particular situation, he should have taken the initiative and been like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. Timeout. Time the fuck out. So I get where you're coming from.
And that's what's interesting because, like, at that point, it was like, well, the Bears can't be any worse, right? With Matt,
you thought so. You would think so.
So that makes me wonder a lot. Like, what if they were coached well?
So and that is a question as well that I've heard a lot. The podcast I listen to, one of the co-hosts is a Bears fan, and he
Robert
thinks the same thing
Saleh,
too.
same thing with Robert Saleh.
It
Like,
happened. You're right. It's like everything was like bad, and then you get rid of the guy who, and I think this is part of that consistency that Ryan Poles was talking about when he kept Eberflus. But everything was bad with these guys, and then it just got worse. The Saints are another situation where you're like, you fire the head coach because of decision making and in-game or lack of in-game adjustments, and then somehow those decisions and those in-game adjustments get worse. What I will say about the Bears situation is Thomas Brown went from passing coordinator to when Shane Waldron got fired to offensive coordinator to when Eberflus got fired 3 weeks later to head coach. The thing between the Shane Waldron firing and becoming OC to being the head coach, in between those 2-3 weeks, that offense looked decent. You saw what happened against the Lions. You saw what happened against the Packers. You saw what happened against the Vikings and whatever team they played in between there or whatever the situation was. You saw that there was an improvement of communication between the offensive coordinator, Caleb Williams, and the offense. There was something going on there. And then they're like, you know what? You're right. Eberflus does need to go, which I was all for, and so was 99% of the fan base probably. And then you thrust the guy who created some sort of semblance of an offensive game plan into the head coaching position, taking him from the booth to the field where he does not prefer that. And then this mess goes completely awry. Now, look, Thomas Brown, I even said it. Remember, we had this conversation. You're like, this guy's talking like Mike Tomlin during his pressers. And I'm like, he is. The thing is, everybody was already being like, oh my God, Thomas Brown bringing a new this. He might be the head coach. And I was like, we need to calm down. This guy, we can't crown this guy head coach already. Does he have a shot? Yes. But clearly these last 4 games, not it. Not fucking it. So as much as I like Thomas Brown and what he was doing with the offense as a coordinator for those 3-4 weeks, head coach, he's not there yet. He's just not. And this is going to be a really bad look on him. But the entire NFL world has to take a step back. And I think the entire NFL world is going to do this. Take a step back and realize that the organization that he was a head coach, an interim head coach for, is a dog shit organization right now. And it is one of the worst. They are the worst football team in the NFL right now, Kyle. And I have no hesitation saying that. You can talk to me about the Giants. You can talk to me about the Patriots. You can talk to me about the Jaguars. You can talk to me about the fucking Titans. The Bears are the worst run organization right now in the NFL today, regardless of what it says.
I mean, if the Patriots lose on Sunday, then there'll be a below 0.33 win margin for the 3rd consecutive season, which would be a franchise record. So that tells you that they're not used to losing.
Yeah.
Now, like, the last thing I'll say about it, to put a bow on it from an outsider, and I think there's going to be Bears fans that disagree with me, but I feel like Bears fans want Ben Johnson, but I feel like what you need is Mike Vrabel.
Those are my top 2. Yes.
I think there is no point. I think you could do a Ben Johnson later, but I think you need a Mike Vrabel now. And like, there might be a higher ceiling on Ben Johnson, but we just can't risk the floor being lower. If Mike Vrabel can for sure get you to 9 wins and potentially 12, that needs to be the option right now. What do we know about Vrabel? He can create a culture.
Yep.
The Bears, that's the one thing that they don't have.
They
don't have a culture. They don't have an identity. So instead of taking a chance on somebody, you need to just bring in the most certain thing possible to at least have an identity and a culture in a winning season. And it's Mike Vrabel. And then if you want to get picky, let's say you got 2 9-win seasons in a row and you just missed the playoffs, you want to fire Mike Vrabel because it's just not good enough, like Denver fired John Fox after we got bounced in the playoffs in 2014, hired Gary Kubiak, and then won the Super Bowl in his first year. Like, if you want to try to go from good to great later, go for it. But I think right now you need to go from bad to average or slightly above. And I feel like the safest way to do that's Mike Vrabel. And today, Ryan Poles on Pro Football Talk, he said, I believe that our issues as far as the slow offensive starts, he says, I think it stems from training camp. And this quote I only bring up because look what he says here. It's just some of the things that either weren't addressed, they weren't detailed enough, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have whatever that is, right? It's okay if you want to identify the problem, but identify the problem. If you're still saying like it stems from training camp, okay, what do you mean by that? Well, it's just some of the things that either weren't addressed or we weren't detailed enough. Not sure what those things are, but whatever they are, this can't be the way that this is being ran. Like, we can't fix the problem until we know what the problem is. So, like, for Ryan Poles, like, if you want to go on ESPN 1000, make an appearance and put this out there, you do yourself a favor and just be a little more specific. Don't go on there and just like broadly complain about problems that you as a GM aren't even sure what they are. It's just a bad look, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just to finish this conversation, because I do not want to make it all about the Bears. Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, absolutely. I don't think you can go wrong with either of those guys. And I want to explain why. Mike Vrabel, he's already been a head coach. He's created a culture, like you said. He's a leader of men personality type. You can't go wrong with Ben Johnson only in the fact that the McCaskies and that organization is going with the best option that the NFL for the past 3 years has been like, this guy could be a head coach. This guy should be a head coach. You're aiming high. You're aiming at the most coveted guy right now with one of the best offenses in the last 3 years, right? If Ben Johnson, if you hire him to be coach and he turns out to be a Nagy and he turns out to be a Mike Eberflus, guess what? We as fans cannot be angry. Can we be angry about the product on the field and the fact that he's a shit coach? Yeah, but we can't be mad at the McCaskies for picking him because he has been such a valuable and one of the most coveted head coaching hopefuls in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
we
it's
can't
like
be
the
mad at
Caleb
that.
Williams draft pick.
Exactly.
No one can be mad about it if it doesn't work out.
Exactly.
We were all wrong.
Exactly. You can't be mad because you went with the guy that is experts say
But
was the most high upside.
I'm going to push back and say you can be wrong if you draft Malik Neighbors instead of Joe Alt. And that's what that move is to me. Because you like
Rome?
No, like the Giants metaphor. Like
they
drafted Malik Neighbors, but they don't have enough time to throw him the ball. It's like, everybody knew that Ben Johnson was going to be a good coach, but I felt like we were putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit because what we needed was Mike Vrabel first. Like, we need to fix. We need a culture setter. I think that's the most important thing. I think like bringing in a Ben Johnson's like, of course, everyone agrees Malik Neighbors is going to be a star. He's flashy. He's the toy. He's the jersey. He's everything. But you know what's not attractive is drafting Joe Alt. And
Penei
look where
Sewell.
the Chargers are right now.
Penei Sewell, Joe Alt, Guyton, all
and
these
I
offensive
feel like that's how
linemen.
Mike Vrabel is. Like, it's not the sexy pick.
No, that's why Jim Harbaugh is succeeding with the Chargers right now.
Yeah. And
Because
I'm
he
like,
takes the least sexy shit.
But you know what? If Vrabel comes in and you guys have an identity and you got 9 wins by week 13 next year,
that's hot.
No one, all
I'm
of a
erect.
sudden, you guys are geniuses.
Full hard. Yeah. And that is the criticism that's going to Ryan Poles right now and taking Rome Odunze over an offensive lineman. And I'm not going to get into that, but to address the second part about Ryan Poles saying this is stemming from training camp. When they fired Shane Waldron, Keenan Allen a fucking 12-year vet, however many years vet was like, yeah, man, he was just letting a lot of shit slide in training camp. And I'm just like, what? And this is the guy Eberflus brought in to be the offensive coordinator? Like, you let Shane Waldron let shit just slide because he was trying to be cool with all the players, similar to Nathaniel Hackett. And you saw it during one of the games, probably his last game as offensive coordinator. He's on the bench next to Caleb Williams, laughing, making a joke, and Caleb is like not having it. He's just frustrated. And it's like, this is the fucking guy during training camp that you were like, yeah, he's our guy. Jackson Smith and Jigba was like, good luck. Yeah. It's like, what? So that was just a touch on your second point. Again, the Vrabel, Ben Johnson, they're both right here in terms of who I'm picking. Ben Johnson, you can't go wrong because he's been coveted for so many years. Mike Vrabel, you can't go wrong because he's a leader of men type and would probably bring that culture that you're talking about.
Yeah, he will.
And to your
he will be your
metaphor.
Savior.
Yeah,
if you guys go that route.
And to your metaphor from last season, he's going to get dinner ready before inviting guests over. Yes. He's going to be the guy that's going to have everything set, plates set, silverware set, alcohol on ice, dinner ready in the oven, ready to go, and then call the people over.
Yes.
So last thing I'll say about that, but you make great points. And again, like, this is the Bears dysfunction that I feel like you and I could figure out in a fucking week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's the last thing I'll touch on before we, unless you had something else, but I think that was it.
No, that's all I got. That's it.
Right.
I'm GM for one season. I'm calling Mike Vrabel and I'm asking him to do me a solid and come fix this.
I'm calling Mike Vrabel and being like, you want $20 million a year? Dope.
Yeah.
Here's a 3-year deal.
And people forget that Ryan Tannehill, he turned his whole career around.
He was a no one when he went to the Titans.
He was a bust.
And
like, I think they were the number 1 seed. They won 12 games like 3 or 4 years. Like, everyone forgot. In one bad season, he got canned and no one wants him. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And he went to Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans and became a playoff quarterback. Yeah. Coach of the year, AFC South champions 2-3 years in a row. Obviously, Derrick Henry helped, but you build the team. You don't build the player, you build the team.
A very intense guy, which I feel like the Bears need. He's not going to be laughing when they're cracking jokes.
Exactly.
Like the example you just said. He's going to be the guy that you feel weird laughing around.
Exactly. All right. Kyle, is it time for the motherfucker? Yo.
Welcome to the Chives with Kyle. All right, bad news for Cleveland fans. The Browns adjust Deshaun Watson's contract to allow for flexibility, but basically it means that they have plans to keep him in 2025. So if you guys were hoping that this whole thing was coming to an end, you're going to go one more round at least. The adjustment is aimed at easing future salary cap burden. I feel like both parties can agree that it's only fair to adjust the contract with the way that it's been. Watson is recovering from a torn Achilles. He had that shoulder surgery season ending last year. And basically he's still due $92 million guaranteed. And he hasn't done anything yet. So they're gonna adjust it, and they're mutually agreeing, like, okay, I'm gonna be your quarterback next year, but I know that I haven't been worth what I've been paid. And they met in the middle somewhat. So the Browns expect Deshaun Watson next year. We talked about Jameis Winston maybe. It's going to be Deshaun Watson next year. The last thing that I wanted to say. Week 17 picks came in from the NFL. All 5 people picked the Chargers over the Patriots. Now, 4 of the 5 picked the Bengals over the Broncos, and I just want to give you the scores. Bengals 27-24. Brooke, Bengals 28-23. Dan, Bengals 27-23. Tom, Bengals 27-25. Gianaro, Broncos 26-24. This
26-24. What a score.
This is the type of game where everybody's predicting it to be a close one.
Yep.
I mean, even with all the Bengals picks, nobody's going like Bengals 31-7. So this game, I mean, everyone's just trusting that Joe Burrow being battle tested to lead his team against, this Denver defense. But highest QB pressure rate in the league, 38.1% of snaps result in quarterback pressure. I'm going to be there in 12 hours.
Kyle, that is going to be such a sweet post-game video by Kyle. I'm already calling it. He's calling it. Everybody else who picks the Bengals is wrong. The Broncos are clinching and punching their ticket to the playoffs tomorrow. We got Nick here. He said, chives with Nick. The Browns are the AFC Bears. What I will say, Nick, I agree, but I like this one better. Kyle, I know you put this comment up. Patrick Surtain, PS2, over Justin Fields was a good example of a non-sexy pick that was absolutely perfect in retrospect. Could not agree more, Nick. We talked about Penei Sewell. We talked about Joe Ald. All the picks that happen that are offensive linemen, defensive linemen, maybe not edges, defensive linemen, maybe even linebackers, something like that are non-sexy picks that turn out to be fucking amazing at the end of the day. That's what we're talking about. That's what the Bears need to do. Half and half, offensive lineman, defensive lineman next draft. Anything else is a fucking disappointment.
Bill's comment of the stream.
Comment of the stream right there. So put up 30 plus tomorrow. Go home and celebrate. That's the type of shit the Bears need in the coaching room right now. Thank you guys so much for being here during our prediction stream. We've got 2 more weeks of regular season NFL left, but then we're going into the primetime, baby. We're going into the NFL playoffs. Huge shout out to Bill, to Nick, to Ginger, to Richard. We had Lil E in here. We had Daniel Barry in here as well. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate you guys being in here. Go follow us on X and now Rick. How, where can they follow you on X?
You can follow me at NFL with Kyle.
And go follow the Only Football Podcast on X at Only Football Pod. Make sure to follow us as well on Twitch and on YouTube. And if you haven't already, please hit a like on this stream. Share it with your friends. Tell your coworkers, your parents, a random person on the street about the Only Football Podcast. And tell Topo Chico about sponsoring this podcast because their seltzers are fucking amazing. And I can't say this stream has been brought to you by Topo Chico yet, but I will say we really like their seltzers. Right, Kyle?
I love them. I would also personally be okay with Woodwick Candles sponsoring it.
Hey, a candle sponsor. Let's go.
I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, I always got the candle burning. People give me shit for it. They're like, what are you doing with the candle? Look, I like candles. I've always been a candle guy. Woodwick is the only candle that I buy that, I mean, for real, it's the only candle I buy anymore because I buy one of these, you know how much I burn them. I'm not lying. You can see it in the background. That thing goes down so slow. It's got the wood wick, so it actually crackles like a real fire.
Oh,
and
like
if we're like just smelling candles, I've smelled candles that have like strong smell, but when you burn them, not much. Yeah. This thing, it's like a medium to mild like smell. Smells great, but it's just not like boom. But as soon as you light the candle, the whole room just like fills with the smell. It's just the best candle in the world. It truly is. So I would be down with a Woodwick sponsorship. I'm probably the only sports podcaster to
Topo Chico and Woodwick, sponsor us, please. I'm on day 2 of making sure to tag Topo Chico in some tweets. So tomorrow, day 3, will begin for them to sponsor us. I want them to sponsor us. Orange Crush coming soon. Kyle, always a good time, brother.
Always a good time. See you after the Broncos win.
See